Well, you have to pick it up and drop it.
Oh, what's your sign in?
Here it is.
Oh, you're good.
Or just, you know, my camera's way above your head. Can you?
Okay, thank you.
Reflection of that. Oh, no, I got the boat.
Call to order. Roll call.
Sister Wedwig. Sister Miller.
19 present, we have a quorum. Annual photo we just did, invocation by Lois Good, pledge of allegiance led by Alec Hampton.
O Lord, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Psalm 8:9. We come before you tonight, tossed to and fro like a ship without a rudder. We're humbled by this quote, what is a man that thou art mindful of him? And the Son of Man that thou visitest him, end quote, Psalm 8:4. But you also told us to ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asks receives, and he that seeks finds. And to him that knocks it shall be opened. End quote, Matthew 7:7-8. We're knocking, asking for our minds to receive the answers to the questions that are with us. And thy will be done. In Jesus' name, amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, approval of the minutes for May 21st, 2024, and June 20th, 2024. Is there a motion? Motion by Mr. Kudo, second by Mr. Whiteway.
Yeah, so, on the map here, it says authorize the current board of directors on a minor administrative vacation request to live, city Lathrop. It has me listed as a yes on there, I was a no on that. And I noticed that you have the exact same votes for this one as you do for proof to change the discipline and termination process, so I wonder if it copied and pasted or something?
We'll have to check into it.
These minutes are not right.
Okay.
That's actually.
Okay, so let me see. May 21st.
And I believe Sherry and Tom voted yes on that.
Okay. Do you wanna wait to accept until next month, or you want to? Cause I can't.
I mean, personally, I didn't keep a track of how everybody else voted for sure, but I guess if everybody else has looked at it and they agree with the vote on it.
First one you're saying change the type.
Yeah.
How it is, sure that's wrong. And then the second one is,
I don't remember how everybody voted, but I'm sure Sherry and Tom both voted yes on that.
so, on which one?
On sending this letter to the city of Ladysmith,
Oh, I voted yes, yes.
and he's listed as a no on there. And I'm sure Sherry would have voted yes
I
on that
think
as
we
well.
have problems
no also, no. Listed as a yes.
So based upon this, why don't we,
Just wait till next month.
wait till next month to vote on that and move on to the,
Okay, good one.
yes.
Motion by Mr. Wonders, is there a second? Table the minutes to next month?
Or actually postpone to next month.
Postpone the approval on the minutes. And a second by Mr. Hampton. Any other questions? If not, we can vote on.
Mr. Goodis, Mr. Kudo,
Yes, passed by majority. Public comment. Limit to 3 minutes per person with a maximum public comment of 30 minutes on agenda item only. Public comment. Yes.
Back up, microphone or?
Yep, step up to the microphone.
Okay.
State your name, please.
Dave Borman. Good evening, everyone. I had to write some things down so I could get my thoughts in order, so bear with me. The other problem I've got is I got a new pair of glasses and I can't read what I wrote down, so. But I'm Dave Borman. I'm here representing the Rusk County Trail Association, or LATA. We are called now Ladysmith Trail Association. And we're here in support of resolution number 6 tonight on your agenda, regarding funding that's by Health and Human Services as part of the ARPA funding for our club. So I'll keep my comments very brief because I see you have a full agenda tonight to act on. LATA's purpose is to maintain and develop non-motorized trails in the county. We are strictly a volunteer club, receive no federal, state, or local funding. All our work on trails is completed by volunteers. The club is supported by donation and member fees. The trails are open to everyone, including Rusk County residents and tourists. The trails are used for activities such as cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, winter fat tire riding, hiking, mountain biking, and educational instruction. We support trails in central Rusk County, including Sisters Farm, the Mine Hiking Trails, Riverside Trail, and the Ladysmith High School Trail, which is lighted during the winter months. The trails have hosted many events and activities through the years, including ski and mountain bike races, family bike and hike events, moonlight ski, snowshoe nights, and educational field trips, school cross-country meets, and even hosted a Rusk County High School, Middle School mountain bike team. The funding we are requesting will fill a major need to update equipment that has become dated and enhance trails to a degree we would not be able to do without that funding. We feel that our trails fit the goals and the purpose of the grant and would be wise and long-term investment benefiting Rusk County residents. Thank you for your consideration, and we are here to answer questions should they come up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Any other public comment?
Your 2 minutes.
No other public comment? Public comment is closed.
Yeah, follow
Presentation,
that.
updates on visitor center, train tour given to the students. Lois?
We gotta make this somewhat legitimate.
Are you kidding?
Good evening. My name is Sue Moore, and I'm the city representative on the Joint Management Tourism Committee. And this, of course, is Lois Good, the county rep. And
Ray Carlson, who will share with us in a few minutes. Can you hear me? And we thought for so many new people on the board and some reminders to the older ones, that you should be aware that the county and the city jointly maintain and take care of the visitor center and the train display. And Ray, do you wanna share a few things with the group?
Why, thank you. Yes, I've got a few things, because 2012, I was on the Ladysmith Council with Bill Morgan, which you probably all know him. And we were in charge of the train display, trying to get it updated and so forth like that. So it's been quite a chore, because it's 22 years we've been working at this. Anyway, what I've got is after about 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't do much more on the rail display. Then Bill Morgan died, and so the city hall asked me if I would do a history on the rail display. And I accumulated council meetings of rail display since then, so I had quite a pile of papers on it. So I've been documenting them now. I'm about halfway through. I've got probably 12 more yet to do. It's a busy time. I thought I retired, but I don't think so. I was one of the guides that give the students a guide trip through the display. I was the school teachers and the students. Any questions?
Thanks, Ray.
Okay, you're welcome.
We'll continue on with some things here. Our first train tour was Tuesday, May 14th of this year. OLS grades 3 and 4 and the Imago Dei Academy grades 4 and 6 took the tour. We had a total of 28 students. Each student had a train ticket that was punched at 4 different stops on the tour. So we tried to make it kind of legit and fun for them. The back of the teacher's form that Lois had put out was a list of student items for sale. And we also, at the end, we had a very authentic looking train cookie that each child was locally made. Each child was given. They're almost too good to eat. Ashley Keith created a website with these items so the parents could help students pick out souvenirs. Their first stop was a library to hear a train book read. Next was a picnic and playtime at O.J. Foggy Park. 12 o'clock, they walked to the visitor center for the train tour. Thanks to the staff, Ray Carlson, for sharing his vast knowledge of trains and leading the tour. Lois Wood, coordinator. Sue Moore, coordinator. Jenna from Economic Development for taking pictures. Doug Parker for getting the trains cleaned and putting up the signal pole. Wanda Kelly for doing all the typing with Lois Weinert. Conducting a guided tour of the visitor center and sold souvenirs. Bonnie Dyson for making beautiful train cookies for each student. This is Bill Morgan for donating a conductor's hat and an engineer's hat to be worn on the tour. In the boxcar, Lois Good dedicated the reading of an excerpt from the Boxcar Children book in memory of Bill Morgan, whose dream was that this boxcar would be used as a reading and learning center where boxcar children books would be read. Quote, so all our children could be a part of the railroad experience, end quote, Bill Morgan. We have many more plans we're working on for promoting the visitor center and the trains. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to share some of the information with you.
Thank you. Two, current condition of highway department, current condition of highway department equipment. Emily Van Dorn and Justin filling station.
Well, thank you for giving us this time to, show you a bit about our department, and our equipment. Those who I haven't met yet, I'm Emily Van Dorn, the interim highway commissioner, and with me, I have asked our shop foreman, Justin Livingston, to help out. Kind of what we wanna go over tonight is we wanna do kind of a very brief department overview. We last presented, I think, in February. Obviously, we've had a change up on some of the boards. We just wanna give a very brief department overview. I wanna touch on briefly on what an internal service fund is. And then our main focus is gonna be on highway equipment. A little bit of background, we have 24 highway workers. That includes 4 mechanics. We have one that is a shop foreman, that's Justin. He oversees our daily operations inside the shop. Deals with any issues the mechanics might have, training any new mechanics. Of the 4 mechanics, one is a primarily welds. We have enough welding that needs to be done, he stays busy with that, as well as he goes up to the blacktop plant when we are paving. We have currently this summer 2 LTE highway workers, and then we have 18 highway crew. Of the 18 highway crew, 3 of them are foremen. One of them is more specialty to the blacktop plant. He handles all things blacktop. We have a foreman that is more of the dirt work. He puts in our culverts. He did run the paver, but he's gonna be busy this summer helping another department with work. And then our third foreman is kind of all around specialty. He kind of helps prep roads. He runs our grader. He does a lot of our township work. We also have 3 offices. There's a highway accountant specific to highway. We have a commissioner, and then we also have an operations manager. A little bit more of our background is our department provides services to departments, municipalities, and cities. This would be, we help service, our mechanics service the county fleet cars. For municipalities, we do mow work, we plow, we do some paving. City, we do more material sales to them. They do get their fuel from our fuel island as well. Our department also provides maintenance to both state and county roads. We do about 125 miles of state roads. This would include 73, 40, 27, and Highway 8. We do that maintenance through an RMA, which is a routine maintenance agreement with the state. It's set, the state kind of sets it right now, it's about a little over 700,000. That's where our mowing, we do state roads, the plowing, crack sealing, anything like that will go to the RMA. We also do roughly about 250 miles of county roads. We do also operate 6 gravel pits, 5 are active, and 1 is non-active. We kind of had, I'm not sure how much before, but we inherited or brought on some gravel pits from forestry a couple of years ago, I think in 22-ish. We also, our highway shop and office is located on Highway 27 there. This was built 1960, 1961. We also have 2 satellite sheds. They're located in Bruce and Warehouser. These are cold storage. When I say sheds, they are sheds. There's nothing fancy about them. Moving on, where's our equipment at today? Our equipment age is old and past useful life. Our equipment is beyond cosmetic. It's beyond throwing paint on it. It's in its structure. The kind of question we bring up is, when do repairs become too much? Is it when you have nowhere to weld a box back on because the metal is too compromised? Is it where the corrosion is so bad on your taillights that you have to use silicone to hold them lights on? Another thing that comes up is the safety of the operator, as well as the safety of the public. Is the price of equipment going to be a safety concern, not only for our employees, but also the public? And then finally, our costs of our equipment to maintain them are becoming greater than our revenue. So briefly here, we're gonna go through a few pieces of our plow trucks. We're gonna touch on a pickup and then a loader. Justin is a guru on this. He's worked on every piece of equipment we have.
Alright, first up is truck 53. Underneath the box above the wheels there, it's rotted out. You can patch it up, it'll last a little while, it'll crack up, and then you're back to where you started from. I mean, it's old, it's been in the sand and salt. These things plow when the material's getting put down, so they're splashing that fresh salt, fresh sand and salt mixed together, splashing up underneath these trucks. Once you get into like crevices and stuff, you know, where they're welded, you got little holes, that salt water gets in there, you can't get it out. I mean, over time, it just inevitably eats away the box. And on the next picture there, right next to it, that's where the framing of the box, where most of the bed of the box on the floor, it starts to separate there, and it pops the welds and it cracks on the floor because the floor gets weak between hauling material and it rust jacking. You start to get cracks that they like come out in like S's or they zigzag around because the floor is weak itself. On the next slide, this is where we have to silicone our taillights in because it's rotting from the inside out, from where that salt water gets up in there and it holds in there, and all it does is start eating away. And over time, you end up with this. We can patch it with some welds, and inevitably it's gonna crack up and break again because you've got so much flex there because everything's getting weak because of the salt and the sand material. And you know, we get out in the forestry at times and it's pretty aggressive out there. I mean, you're on ATV trails, logging trails to twist these trucks up. So when you take a truck like this, you start causing more damage because everything's already weak. And on the next picture there, you can see where it's flexing the box. And there's a crack there, that's 4 to 5 inches. It's on both sides. And for it to crack there, you gotta have some serious twist in that framing of the truck. There's also, not a picture of it, but these trucks have double frames. And material gets in there, you can't get it out. You can wash it all day long, but once that material's in there, the double frame is like this. It's a big C channel. There's another frame inside of it. You get watery salt in there, and then it starts to build, or it starts to rust. It starts jacking it, and then it compromises the frame of the truck as well. So we'll go to truck 88. This truck we bought used in 2014 from Washburn County. It was a salt truck for Washburn County. We bought it used. We painted them, made them look good when we got them because they were crusty when we bought them. As you can see, that one's rotted away right underneath the wheels, or it sprays your material up. And again, we can patch it up. So there's the outside, there's a center, and then there's where it connects to the bed there. You can patch that up, but you're never going to connect that center piece in there and have structural integrity. So we can try to patch it up. We've done it before, and then your integrity is still weak, and you get flex in there, and it starts popping the weld, it starts cracking the metal. That's the front side of the taillight housing. The next picture, where it's starting to rot from the inside out. You can take your finger, you can push on that metal, and it pushes right through. That's kind of a common thing that we got going on there. I mean, these trucks, they're getting old. They're getting close to 20 years old, and they're living in salt. And like I said, they're putting the material down, and they're driving on this material. So as that salt activates, it's pushing up in these trucks. So whether you wash them for 4 hours trying to get the stuff out, it gets in them nooks and crannies, and you can't get it out. We've been updating these trucks when we can with stainless steel boxes, so we don't run into this issue. Next slide. So there's no little arrow on there. So bottom tail light, there's a little crack there, and in that crack, it's actually twisted and smushed because of the flex in the box. Inevitably, we keep running it. There's only so much patch you can weld it up, and it's gonna crack again. You get a box like crinkle and twist and be hanging there to fall off. Tailgate can open, and it can tear that down further because there's rust above the tailgate where it's weak as well. So integrity is low. A couple of these trucks, as well as this one, there is underneath the tailgate there we have plates welded up on them because the flex and the cracks that run up from the hinges from these things being weak, we have welded plates on the backside to try and make them last as long as we can get them to go. We, on this next slide, we were told to get a second opinion, and from the second opinion, took them down to Sheldon, shop down there, rust jacking on the frame, lift cylinder leaking, it's pitted from rotting away, so it's causing it to seep down. The hood damage, there's hood damage on these trucks, and it's quite common because they're older. These hoods, they don't make these hoods anymore, so we have to order them aftermarket. Getting the hood, getting it painted, I think it was about $500 or $5,500 with the light buckets, because they updated the light buckets, and they do not come with a grill. We have one truck we had to put the hood on because it heavily fell apart. So they do not make the grill for it because the snowplow package, they gotta cut it out for the pump and your latch mechanism for your plow. So, we got some exhaust manifold leaks. I mean, them are concerning. The problem we have is we got so much stuff that we have to constantly work on between service calls and stuff. Exhaust leak, it's starting to blacken up the gasket, so it's not getting into the cab. It needs attention, it requires attention. We got to kind of assess what needs to be repaired first, and then we go through an order operations of what we go towards to fix to keep this stuff on the road. And then the bumper up front is cracked as well. So next slide. So this is another Washburn truck. Same era, same salt truck, different number, same thing cracked. So that crack there that's in this picture, that's been welded multiple times and it keeps cracking in that same spot because of the flex and everything getting weak. The integrity's it's low. You can only push this so far before it hurts somebody or causes an issue where we're plowing all the material, the box decides one day to hit them. They're on a little bit of an incline and it decides to come off. That's pretty dangerous. It's getting pretty bad. So there's only so much Band-Aids we can put on stuff to make them last. The next slide. This is the same truck underneath the tailgate, where the curvature of the back of the box comes down. That right there is the holes from, there's the tailgate ledge above. Them holes you can push your finger right through. You can get up there, you can weld good material to that crap material, and it ain't doing nothing. I mean, inevitably it's shot. You can't go nowhere with it. And then we'll go with this on the next slide as well. Second opinion. Another one with the exhaust manifold starting to leak. Frame has severe rust jacking. Left rear dump box cracked. Got carrier support bearing falling out of crossmember. So, just, everything's just rotting apart.
And a big note on this truck, is that first sentence, truck failed DOT inspection.
We'll go to the next truck. So this one, the last two, so 86, 88, 89, all came from Washburn. They were all Washburn County salt trucks. There's a hood, excuse me, there's a hood that's cracked. We patched it together with some fiberglass between the mounts and the ATV trails, just normal use wear and tear. It's gonna crack again, and that's a $5,500 fix without labor. So that's painted and hooded, put in the shop. I mean, that's just a big expense on a truck that's been $300,000, it's starting to rust away. Its integrity's pretty low. It's just a net expense to the other situations on this truck, so we go to the next slide and elaborate. So right there, when we got these trucks, one of the foremen went through and he painted the boxes back up because they were rusted through, and he did some underliner above where the wheels spray up your salt, your dirt, your material. In that spot there, above the rear wheels, a lot of that undercoat is holding that metal in there. It's soft, the integrity is low, it's weak. Same thing with the taillight housing that's in front of the taillight housing. On the side of the box, it's soft there. You start to push away. I mean, you start to find good metal if you go far enough, but you have to put your finger into it. I mean, you're putting 18 ton in that box, and you're trusting that box to hold 18 ton in, you know. You gotta have road when it's plowed. On the next slide, there's more pictures of these box sites. You know, both these pictures are on the same side. Just shows you how far it goes up. That's right above the tailgate hinge up there. You know, these guys load these up and they're spreading
This
gravel.
guy's down the road.
Trying to
So I'm
spread.
thinking their patch, right?
Say they wanna spread 2-3 inches
Okay.
to build the road up. Well, you're trusting that tailgate to hold that material back. And if your tailgate blows off, hopefully nobody's around. So as far as on there, the truck was just like the last four. The boxes they're not real good, and it's not just the box, I mean, the trucks themselves are becoming weak and worn down. Keep in mind that these are the vehicles that run in the salt when it starts to activate on the highway. So you're constantly driving right through it. Whether they wash it right away or not, it's already in the nooks and crannies that are in the frame rail, in the box, transmissions, wherever you're talking. It's getting in there and it's weekly seeping in. And it starts and it goes. Next slide would be the second opinion. Failed inspection. Severe rust jacking of frame, rear box rotted out. Exhaust manifold leak on this one. Hydraulic tank starting to leak, starting to rot out. So then we'll jump to the next one. So this is a fourth truck we bought used. This one's a 2006. So this one has had multiple repairs on it. You can see the hydraulic valve bank. That's the control box for your box, your wing, your plow, underbelly. Requires attention. Doesn't have to be made. We have to call. They have to make them. They're a couple weeks out. That's just, I mean, it's 2006. We expect that to happen. Hydraulic tank is starting to rot out. We're gonna have to order a hydraulic tank for that. Usually when you order them, you have to modify them because they never make them the same, because this was made in 2006, so they're going off blueprints that they probably don't even have. They're just going off measurements that we have in a book that come with the truck. This one, the frame rail underneath the box paneling has been reinforced because it was rotting away. The cylinder and the lifting mechanism is all one, and it's all frame rail. That had all to be changed because the box got lifted up in the scissor. It's a scissor mechanism, so when the cylinder pushes, it picks the box up. It actually broke, and the box comes slamming down. All the material. The hinges were also done on this truck too at that time because they were shot. 89, the previous truck, that had new box hinges put on it, had a new scissor put on it, and the cylinder as well. So that's just a little list on that truck that what we have done to it. It's not any better, but the box is gonna fall off.
Just to point out on that, the last four trucks we looked at, we showed you there, the 3 Washburn and the Baron, these were all bought used, 4 of them within 2 years. So obviously, they're gonna go at the same time, and that's what we're running into now.
So the truck 55 is a sister truck to truck 53. They were purchased at the same time. Delivery was real close to each other. You can see where's that main beam is detaching from the body of the truck, or the box. Next slide. So on this picture, the only welds that are holding are about the first 3 foot of either end. It's starting to separate between rust jacking, getting weak. We had a little walkthrough, and they also come out and seen, and every weld point that's on there, there's little S cracks, various locations. This truck was patched where the wheels run up. It was patched. It's holding right now. How long it'll hold, it's anybody's guess. So then we'll go to the next one. So this one, mainframe left side detaching, unsafe to haul material. So what they're saying is it shouldn't even be on the road hauling any material. We got the box pins have 3/4 inch of play, which is no good either. We got, small miscellaneous things in there, which is gonna happen.
We've sent 4 down to Sheldon, and 3 of the 4 have failed to do this inspection. Justin kind of
we're not really exempt, we don't get checked, but if something happens, we have a truck, somebody gets severely hurt, or we have a box come off and then the key pulls up, we're gonna get stopped, we're gonna get checked, and we're gonna get in trouble. Because these trucks shouldn't be doing what they're doing, because they are so beyond use, they shouldn't be on the roads. Not everyone, I mean, the list here, we're showing you that this is the extreme. It could cause some issues, we could have some bad things happen that we don't want to happen. This is why we're here, this is why we wanna show you guys what's going on. This should have been addressed a long time ago, that's why we're doing it now, because we have the opportunity. We're gonna go to the next thing, this is a pickup truck, it's a 97, 196,000 miles, this is the rear spring shaft. Fortunately, they haven't pulled a lot of trailers with this, so leaf spring on the back, that's your suspension for your axle. So you put weight on the bumper, put weight in the back. That point right there is a little bearing spot. Put the weight down, the spring comes down, it applies the pressure there, which is mounted to the frame, which distributes your weight, so your vehicle can handle what you wanna haul. If we were to, say, hook a skid steer to that, the odds of that failing is pretty good. So we pulled this off, out of the fleet, it is now no longer in use, because that could happen. So the next slide, that little circle there, it's hard to see in the picture, but that's a crack through the frame. It's rotting away between age, dries and salt. It's a 97. Where it's circled in on the right side there, that is the floorboard. On the driver's side where your feet would be, just back from the gas pedal. You got holes in the floorboard, you see the rubber from there. Then on the next slide, that's another picture, seeing through the floorboard. And then you got rot right there on the right side. So that rot is right below a cross member, or right above the cross member, excuse me. Where your control arm would come and attach to that point. If that were to break, your wheel and control arm assembly would go out, it would rip out, and then you would lose control of the vehicle. So this is why we pulled this off. This is no longer in use, because it is a hazard. And then the next picture is little frame separation, wear and tear, old. That's where the two frames butt together. It's just a little frame separation. It should be there. It's not good.
The reason why I included truck 23 here is this is a crew cab. We kind of defer the crew cab, we're able to haul more employees, more crew out to the job sites, and take less vehicles. We also included it because this brings us down to 3 trucks that we are down on pickups. And this is our most recent one that we had to pull off. We have not yet been able to replace it.
Alright, so this is our number 73, Cat 966. It's a 93. It's fairly old. It's got a lot of hours. It's getting weak on power. Got pins and bushings that are bad. The step right there looks like a little rust. Step on it and it's soft. It's a hazard to somebody climbing up there. You could have somebody fall through, cut their leg, fall through, fall back, break their leg, be hanging there if nobody's around. It's not good. So we recently did a service on this about 3 months ago, 2 months ago. And it came back with high iron and coolant contamination in the engine. This engine has never been touched, so it's made it a quite a while. I mean, that's a very long time for an engine to, before it actually has issues. We do oil samples on all our big equipment, tractors, skid steers, excavators. We sample the oil every service. Our services are on the heavy equipment. We do it about 200 hours. If it's close to it and we can get it in, and it's not on a big job, we'll do it at 200 hours. A little early, but it's safe, on the safe side, so they don't get 3, 4, 5, 600 hours on a service that should be done sooner. It's simple maintenance. So the oil sample came back, so we knew we had some issues with contamination, and you had iron in there, which is degrading engine parts. Shouldn't have iron in there, that means you got metal coming apart inside the engine. Once you get coolant in there, coolant is not a lubricant, coolant likes to dry bearings, coolant likes to eat the engine apart. So that's where we're at with this, so we got some estimates, this is from CAT, we went with them. That's what it is. So that's with the bucket control, repair, to remove and install the radiator, remove and install engine, recondition the engine, disassemble, assemble radiator for cleaning, float testing, replace refrigerant compressor, R&I lift hoist cylinder, rebearing and reseal lift hoist cylinders, R&I tilt cylinder, rebearing and reseal tilt cylinder, clean machine test after repairing of machine, repair and replace step. So, this came from CAT, and the engine has to be reconditioned because they don't have a reman of this engine, because this thing's so old that they don't have it one sitting on the shelf that they can just sell it so we can sell it. So they have to go through and rebuild this engine. We, with our equipment, between the service calls on a day-to-day basis, stuff breaking down, and us having to maintain what we have to try to keep going, there's no way we can tear this thing apart ourselves. So that's an estimate from CAT, because that's the only way we can get it done. If we tore that apart, maybe 6 months to a year before we could actually get it done, between trying to keep our equipment running and service calls. I mean, some days you get service calls you get all day. And you got 3 guys to a service call, you get 2 guys running out 3 different trucks. You got 1 guy in the shop. You get stuck on one thing and you gotta do that. You know, and you got 3 guys fixing stuff, so you're constantly chasing stuff that's breaking all the time. Between dump trucks, you know, tractors, mowers, all of it. You're gonna have breakage. We have so much of it that there's things that we cannot keep up with. Because our fleet has degraded so far. And right there is what a sample confirmed engine wear and tear.
Alright, so in summary, on the piece of equipment, we have learned to adapt to what we have, we work with what we have, but the age of the equipment and the wear of the equipment has just become too much for our department. On the next slide here, is cost versus revenue. I kinda touched on it briefly in the beginning there. This is taken from our yearly equipment cost analysis report. I took for the last 4 years, I took 23 to 20, and the red bar there on the graph is showing our costs, and the orange is showing our revenue. So if you see the last 4 years, our costs have been higher than our equipment revenue. But as we're coming closer to 22 and 23, we have replaced a couple plow trucks there and a few more smaller pieces of equipment, and that has brought our revenue up. Obviously, our goal, higher revenue and our costs. And getting new equipment is gonna give you lower costs, higher revenue. Next slide here is the equipment fund. In case, I'm gonna guess not many are aware of what an internal service fund. This is what we refer to as our equipment fund. So what this does is this charges users of the service the fund provides. So when we go work on a state road or a municipality or a city, is we set an equipment rate for that piece of equipment. Whether it be, I don't know, $90 for the plow truck, when they're out there plowing 2 hours, we're charging that $90 times 2 as a revenue, charging the municipality, whichever job it is, and that revenue on that piece of equipment is flowing back into our equipment fund. On the flip side of that, this is not just a revenue pot, it is also where costs go to. On the next slide there, what comes out of this is expenses for providing them. So to overhaul that loader, that 102,000 will come directly from our equipment fund. So any repairs, the labor for our employees working on that piece of equipment, that comes from equipment fund. Any setup costs, usually on our used vehicles purchases, there's some setup, you know, if you gotta go travel to go look at the piece of equipment. If there's any extra tools, you buy a service truck, the tools that go in there, the compressor, anything you purchase for that goes as a setup cost. Our fuel system also allocates the equipment fund, and at the end of the year, we allocate the shop overhead and that gets charged to the equipment fund. For 23, that was $177,000 that got charged to equipment. And then as well, building expenses come out of that equipment fund. Steps going forward, we need to recognize and act upon the needs of the department. We need to, we're not showing you what we want. We're not coming here asking for something because we want it. We're at a point where we need these pieces of equipment. We also need to work to be more upfront and honest about our equipment. We need to work with our committee, bring these things up before they become critical. Unfortunately, we're kind of recognize our committee that we are dealing with past choices, and we're kind of been put in a hard place where we have to make hard decisions. And that to purchase equipment that are expensive and are gonna hurt the budget, but we foresee the benefits of doing that. And finally, the most important one is safety. This is a top priority. You cannot put a price on the safety of our employees or the public. And our department goal is for every employee to come perform their daily task and to go home safe. And then finally here, I welcome any board member. We had a couple weeks ago, we had a meeting out there for anybody to come tour our departments. And we thank the people that showed up. Those of you who couldn't make it or didn't know about it, just give us a call. Our doors are open, we will give you a tour gladly. But other than that, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, Justin. Discussion. 2025-2029 capital improvement plan.
Okay, so in your packet, there are two versions of the capital improvement plan, and that is because at finance last week, there was a change to the projection of the jail project. So my ask would be that if you're going to entertain approving this, you would approve, not the as approved by property, but the one with the proposed edits. So the capital improvement plan is pretty self-explanatory. Okay, well good, that's good, it should be done. So the function of the board is to set policy, and the board should have long-term needs of the county in mind. The capital improvement plan will help the board plan during budget process and any possible bonding. So you just heard from the highway department that unfortunately a lot of these things went unaddressed for decades, it seems. And so communication is really key. So what I asked each department to do was put together their request for capital projects over the course of the next 5 years. As the commissioner said, these are not wants. This is not a wish list. These are needs. These are things that we need to replace so our county continues to operate efficiently, effectively, and safely. I'm talking about the entire capital improvement plan. Yep. So the capital improvement plan also allows the county to start a replacement schedule for its equipment, which to my knowledge, the county has never really done any kind of proactive maintenance. The county has always reacted to crises. So we'll talk about that when it breaks, or when someone gets hurt, or when we turn a corner and an overloaded truck, the box cracks off. We'll talk about it then. Is seemingly how things have been done in the past. So we have an opportunity now to start planning to replace some of that equipment. And like the commissioner said, not just with the highway department, but with a lot of our departments, our equipment, all of it is at the end of life. And I don't envy the choices that this board has to make, because we are gonna be asking for a lot of money because we're in a hole right now and we have to start digging out of that hole. But my hope is that having a capital improvement plan in place have any specific questions to the plan, otherwise I'll just kind of go through, some of the highlights. Okay, so obviously the major thing that the county is considering right now is a potential jail project. As I mentioned, the direction of that is unclear now after the last finance committee meeting, but I did leave it in the plan because I think we know we have to do something. So that 38.5 million is still in the plan. Highway equipment is another, larger expense in that plan. And then facility maintenance. So a lot of our, buildings are also aging. You heard in the highway, presentation that the shop is from the 60s. Our jail is from the 80s. A lot of our buildings need some investment in them. So financing the capital improvement plan, I asked each department to submit proposed sources of revenue with their capital needs. So that includes tax levy, GO debt, fund balance, grants, and fees. Most of what we're asking for in the capital improvement plan, I would say, is levy if you take out the big chunk of borrowing for the jail project. My ask of the board is to consider taking a part of any surplus we might have for a budget year, and instead of letting it just roll back into the general fund, allocate a portion of that surplus to a capital project fund. So that is what I'm proposing to help fund some of these needed projects. If we wanna go through kind of the summary again, the huge numbers that are hitting you in 25, 26, and 27 are factoring in a potential borrowing for the jail project. So as we get into 28 and 29, those are more the numbers that you'll be seeing without a larger capital project. As I mentioned, a lot of that is coming from the tax levy. The other larger chunk is from general obligation debt. And we have, since 2021, we've been borrowing every other year for about $3 million. And a lot of that does go to road construction projects, and it would continue to do so in this capital improvement plan.
Sorry, when did you say we started borrowing every other year?
2021.
You could hear him talk.
So again, I'll just kind of hit the high points here. So for public safety, ambulance is looking at new rigs to replace some of our outdated ones. We're also looking at building a garage in 2026. The sheriff's office, of course, has the jail project on their tower upgrades, which are for consideration tonight, and then continuing the replacement schedule of their squads. Highway has a significant amount of road construction projects. A big cost in 2027 will be the County M, project. And then starting that replacement schedule with the plow trucks and their pickup trucks out there as well, with some other equipment purchases. Buildings and grounds, a lot of upgrades to the fairgrounds and Trails End as well. It's kind of the same story, not a lot of money has been invested into that, so we're looking to improve some of those structures. And then in terms of maintenance, which mainly includes the courthouse and any other county-owned buildings, like the HVAC at the gateway. One of the larger maintenance requests was the new boiler for the courthouse. Forestry and land conservation, again, looking at replacing some equipment and then getting some of their vehicles on a maintenance replacement schedule. General government, the small courtroom and the large courtroom, I believe, looking for upgrades to the technology in both of those in 27 and 28. And then quite a few capital projects as well for our IT department, just like swapping out our equipment is necessary. We also have to keep our technology up to date. So quite a few computer upgrades factored in for the next 5 years. And then the last couple pages are the exact, forms that the department heads submitted, and most of them did give a little narrative at the end as well, further explaining what their asks are. So, are there any year, so for instance, we are looking at a surplus preliminarily for 2023. A lot of that does depend heavily on how we do stumpage wise. I would say not every year is a surplus.
Right, in the last 2 years, we've budgeted to use a significant amount of fund balance to balance our budget because we haven't borrowed. So part of this would be considering, borrowing for projects that do meet the definition of, general obligation borrowing. So that we can, use our operating funds to pay for those other operating expenses.
Ms. Rollingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm assuming that if we were to approve the capital improvement plan, we're not approving any specific expenditures within that plan, that each one of those projects would have to come back to this board for approval, is that correct?
That is correct. So in the introduction, it says the point of the plan is for planning purposes.
Any other questions? Comments? Mr. Wingo.
And didn't you also say, actually, in other meetings, that this CIP capital improvement plan gets reviewed every year? And so there will be changes made to it if something, this is a framework to start with, but every year it's going to get reviewed and can change.
Yes, absolutely. And as you get 5 years down the line, the department heads did the best they could to guess how much something is gonna cost in 2029. We obviously don't know that for a fact. This is just, as Thierry said, kind of a framework. It's to bring to the board what each department is needing in the next 5 years, so you guys are aware of it. And when they come to you guys as their oversight committees, you can be an advocate for them during the budgeting process. So if they need 2 new pickup trucks, or they need a drone, or whatever, when they come to the finance committee meetings during budget season, you guys have that capital plan in front of you. You have how they're proposing to pay for it, and you can work with your department head to make that a reality.
Mr. Energies.
My concern would be, so you're saying that we're not tied to what's in here, but the jail got to go back in there right now, it's on hold. And at the beginning, you said that, this is how we do our planning, so that we're going to plan for the future. So it sounds like we are using this document, and everything in there is what we're planning on doing. Is that correct?
Well, it's a guide.
It's us endorsing everything in there.
I would disagree with that opinion, but if that is how you feel.
So then you don't think that we are endorsing this, so anything in there we can, it's not binding, you're not gonna come back and say, this is what the capital improvement plan said.
That is not the purpose of the capital improvement plan, it's for planning. So when
So
a
are we
department head
planning-
comes to the board
Are
with
we
needs,
planning
you
on a
can
new
say-
jail right now? Is this,
I don't know.
okay, so how did this planning take place?
The jail
Right now you
has,
said you don't know for
the
planning.
jail has been a topic since I started work here in 2022.
Yeah,
So I would say it's,
2025 project.
if you would like to make a motion to remove that, then that is what you should do.
I also noticed, squad cars being in here, which as far as I know, since I've been on, we've been buying like 3-4 of those.
motion by Mr. Miller. Second. Second by Mike Rusk. Is there any other questions or discussions? If not, we can vote on it. Most mics up. Yes, 4 no, passed by majority vote. Number 4, request for proposal for sale of 1201 Lake Avenue, Ladysmith, Wisconsin, parcel number 246-021-460000.
Okay, so as the board will hopefully recall, we purchased 2 properties on Highway 8 a few months ago. One of them is the current Oakleaf location, the other is just to the west, and it is a vacant parcel that used to contain a motel. This was approved by property to issue requests for proposal to see if there was any interest in getting this land back on the tax rolls. One thing that property did want in here was the acreage, so that has been added, to number 2 here under site data. It's just over 2 acres that property is. Does anyone have any questions? The purchase price I put in here is just the estimated fair market value of the land in 2023. The board can choose to set whatever price they wish. They can not have a price in there and just ask for best offer. Just looking for a little direction if you guys want to list this. Wait or move forward.
Any questions on this?
Is Oakleaf Corporate been contacted on this? Because they have been having a plan to expand. Is that dead now in the water? Or?
When I was speaking with them initially, when this was happening, they had no interest in this lot.
So they were talking about before, so.
I don't know.
This was a while back when they first came in.
No other sheets.
So are you recommending that price for that bid? Or do you have any suggestions?
Nope, it was just a placeholder number.
Do you think there'd be enough interest if we put it out for bid that we get that high, or do you think it's better to set just to set a selling price?
So I guess the question, the only statement that I would have would be whether you want to leave that there or remove any number at all, because again, this is just proposals. This, if somebody offers you anything, at that time you can reject it, counter it, do whatever you want. This is just putting it for sale, giving people a deadline to do that, and if you don't get what you want, at least I guess it's public that it's for sale if somebody down the road does. So, again, if you look at, page 6 of the document, the county reserves the right to reject any or all proposals, second to last paragraph. So, again, this, I would say would be a fancy way of putting a for sale sign in the yard. How about that?
Any other questions?
Okay, again, guys, on your screen there, no troubles with the motions, but you need to get the floor first with the computer program to make a motion. So, we just made a motion when somebody was trying to speak, right?
Well, yeah,
No,
kinda only at the same time.
The motion's actually hit first.
Okay.
Actually, Phil Undershoot's motion hit first, then Tom. and
How would
then
we know that out here that somebody was pushing it to speak and we're pushing to make a motion?
Right.
So, in order to make the motion, you should be called on to speak first. That's what I guess what I'm getting to avoid.
Is a new thing?
No, that should be always the ways. Normally you would raise your hand or something, get called on. With this computer thing, everybody's hitting it at the same time.
Okay, so how you want me to handle this?
So,
Technically, Phil's motion was already there.
okay, that's fine. We can make the motion in a second, but then Tucci do that and then call in Kudo.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Undershoot, second by Mr. Meyer.
Okay, I just wanna say that, thank you, Mr. Chair, first of all. I just wanna say that, I like council's idea of omitting the, price, that you have there. I think it would be a good idea not to put a price on there and see what we get for offers. Personally, for my own, personally, I just feel that's a little low. But it would be interesting to see what people would be willing to pay. Without having a directly put a price saying in front of them. And secondly, Mr. Undershoots, would you please speak up when you talk, because I can't hear you.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Undershoots, your motion would be to put this out without three.
Yeah.
Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Stacy?
I'm just wondering, are we gonna follow the same precedent we just set a few months ago for the hospital property? Because we came in with a proposal to buy the old hospital property, and then we went, oh, we're not gonna do that. Then it happened again, and finally we came around to, well, we're gonna put it out for bids for X amount of days before we make a decision. I would recommend that, considering we just set that precedent just recently, we should probably follow it for this piece of property as well.
The hospital property does have an RFP, I guess I'm confused.
I think you're
Right.
stating that approve the RFP.
Right, but make sure we set a timeline on it like we did for the hospital, follow the same procedure we did for the hospital.
There is a time.
It's in here, August 30th.
Any other questions, comments? If not, vote on it now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Chairman.
Already called it.
Alright. Well, okay, but are we approving it with that number in?
No.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
It's good go. Sorry, Tom.
It's okay. I'm sorry.
18 yes, passed by majority. Resolutions. Inside.
Yeah.
Motion, motion by Mr. Driller, for a second. Second by, Brian Coggins.
Okay, Jared asked me to present on this, he sent me an email to kind of explain this project. The gravel driveway and parking lot for the rifle range at Josie Creek has erosion issues. The curb on the hill requires frequent grading due to slight tire spin and severe washboarding of the gravel. Our project consists of rerouting the access driveway straight up the hill and paving the driveway and the parking lot. Before paving, there is drainage and ditch work needed around the parking lot and driveway to drain water more effectively. The county's 25% match of about up to $12,000 will come out of the park development fund. It is my understanding that this project would not take place until at least next year, because they have other projects they'd like to finish first.
Any other questions? I assume Forest Street knows a little bit more about this too. So, is there anything else to elaborate on? Okay, any other questions? If not, we can vote on it. 19 yes, passed by majority. Number 6, designating HHS American Rescue Plan funds to use for the community project. Number 2, Aaron Jacobs. Need a motion? Motion by Mr. Williams, need a second? Second by John Moore. Now, Mr. Jacobs.
He's due to this thing.
I don't stand anything else.
Good evening, everyone. Jeremy Jacobs, Human Services. I have Kaylee Bugby with me, our health officer. The resolution before you, just a quick reminder, a few months ago in April, we were here to present our first go-round of benefit from the ARPA allocations specific to our public health funds that were made available in 2001, which at that time were specifically designated to mitigate COVID-19. And so those allocations turned into what we have now is specific for recovery, for wellness in our community, and to just use the funds to get folks out and see them in the community again. And so the resolution before you, I think Mr. Borman, he came to our Human Services Board a month or so ago. He brought his friends with him, just like he did tonight, and they're very passionate about the Lady Smith Area Trails Association. As you heard from him, the ideas here are spelled out. This is a great opportunity for us to invest as a county into those projects, and I think that is a very well-deserved project that they've outlined. Indian Head Community Action Agency has two components there. Those of us that have been around for a little bit, there used to be a family resource center that was west of town on Highway 8, just kind of kitty corner from McDonald's. And at that point in time, the services that were provided at that family resource center were of great value, selfishly, to our human services department. There was a lot of parenting, there were a lot of activities, there were a lot of things that took place at that facility that were resources for health and human service related things. So we are very excited to be able to partner with Indian Head to do some of those same things. They've outlined a ton of things that they're going to do. The little snapshot here is very simply just some kind of housekeeping kinds of things, but more importantly, from Lauren and Zach, there's a whole list of things. I won't go through them in the essence of time tonight, but it's just that. It's structural parenting curriculums, it's support, it's all kinds of projects that they are going to do to support our families that are in need in our community. And so I highly recommend that as well. And then the third thing for tonight is again, Indian Head is looking to kind of train the trainer of a Red Cross certified babysitting course. The intent there is to then be able to get in the community and train folks that are interested to become certified babysitters. We have been talking about this for a long time. I know Mr. Willingham from Indian Head has spearheaded the shortage that we have for daycare facilities and all of those items. So this is one small step to help with that direction for certified babysitting in our county for folks that are in need. So from a human services standpoint, Kaylee as our health officer is specifically designated as the administrator of these funds, has ran this through the grantors, and everything has been approved, and so we would respectfully ask that you pass this resolution.
Any questions? If not, we can vote on it. Yes, passed by majority.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 7.
Thank you.
Time I entertain a motion for designating ARPA funds for Rusk County Housing Authority for the addition of Bruce and Hawkins location. Motion by Mr. Gilder. Second by Mr. Rusk. Question?
No, I thought we were supposed to push that.
No.
Oh, you know what?
So back in February of 2024, a resolution was passed, number 12-24, to utilize $45,000 of ARPA funds for the Rusk County
Housing Authority for the Weyerhaeuser, Sheldon, and Ladysmith locations. There was some confusion about which locations they were asking to use the ARPA funding specifically for, because there was some WIDA funding that was available that was used to partially fund the Weyerhaeuser, Sheldon, and Ladysmith heating projects. But they also would like to utilize it for the Bruce and Hawkins locations. So they're not asking for any additional funding, just adding the Bruce and Hawkins locations as allowable, uses of those funds.
Any questions? If not, vote on it now. Yes, passed by majority. Great. Entertain motion for authorizing proceeding with Rusk County Radio Project. Motion by Kurt Leutner, and second by Mr. Phil Schneider, and that would be Ashley and Captain Britt.
Okay, so, the county has been in the process of looking at upgrading the radio system since.
It's been a couple year project too.
So, we finally, came to the board and asked for, this project to be budgeted for in 2024. What the board approved in the budget for 2024 was $2,430,938. That was a quote we received from Motorola to do a simulcast ready system. We then came back to the board and asked for the okay to proceed with the project, and the board directed us to put an RFP out. And while we were doing that, to see what it would cost to just do it all at once instead of doing the project in phases. So George and the sheriff got an RFP together, they put it out, we received two responses. One was from AMCOM Motorola, and one was from GenCom. They presented at the last property meeting, Emergency Services was also in attendance, and those two committees unanimously decided to move forward with this project, partnering with GenCom. And there is a representative from GenCom here today, if you guys have any specific questions for him. So I had sent out, and again, thank you for your patience on this, I had sent out an email earlier this morning. We finally got all of the components of the proposal back together. So there is the actual simulcast system and upgrades to our towers that will be done by GenCom. The overall consensus of property and emergency services was to look at Motorola for the actual radios and repeaters, okay? We will also need to do fiber to each of the sites that don't have it already, so there were quotes from both Brucetel and Brightspeed in there. And then each of the tower sites has a backup LP generator. Miranda got quotes, she sent out a request for 4 different quotes, 2 people did come back. That is the River Country Co-op and the Lemke Oil. So with all of those numbers finally back, we are looking at a current estimate for about $2.35 million. So we are actually coming in right about or just under what you guys budgeted for in 2024. And that is for a fully simulcast system, not just a simulcast ready system. So the out years on this will include maintenance as provided by GenCom, of course the LP costs, and the recurring monthly fiber costs for those towers. So what we are asking for in this resolution is that the county does officially proceed with entering, directing the board chair in conjunction with Corp Council to enter into a contract with GenCom to start this project.
Mr. Anderson.
So I like that this is fully simulcast ready. Does this do anything for the dead zones?
Did you want it?
Yeah. I think we discussed adding more towers or something.
So
this is Aaron Gentleman from GenCom. So yes, we are adding a new tower, which is in the southwest corner, which will cover that whole southwest area. Simulcast, if those of you don't get what that means, is right now we have 4 tower locations. We have one in the Blue Hills, one here at this building, one in Ingram, and then one in Shell. Right now, you have to specifically select which tower that you're close to, talk to. So right now, we have an issue where if somebody's in Hawkins, and there's a car in Warehouser, those two can't hear each other. They have no idea what they're doing. So with simulcast, it eliminates the towers. They all talk together, but when they key the radio, they're keying all of the towers at the same time. They're all timed, correct? It's timed?
Right, yeah.
So that way, all of the towers open up at once in your broadcast, so everybody can hear everything. Make sense? What, further questions?
Lois, Ms. Lois, go ahead.
I was wondering, was there anything done with bug tussle? Did we pursue that at all?
No, so Brewster has the west side of the county and Brightspeed has the east side of the county.
They're the only two vendors that provide fibers in the county. I shouldn't say that. Belcom and Warehouser also has, but they don't service where the tower locations are.
Just to be clear, we had a conversation a couple of months ago where we were talking about a two-phase approach.
Yes.
And it's my understanding that this is combining those two phases into one.
It is, because back when we had that first meeting, I believe it was the board's recommendation to look into doing it all at once versus in steps. So that's, yep, exactly, that's what we did, and this will replace everything we all to do.
I have a question.
Yep.
So, means I live down in the southwest corner.
Yep.
Deep into the woods.
Yep.
Are we gonna eliminate the problem based on our patrols having problems trying to talk to us back here?
Yes, by adding the southwest tower in Island Lake.
Because from what I'm familiar of, it's very dead over there.
It is.
We can sit there and scream all day and nobody hears a word.
Right, but that new tower location at the new Verizon site there at Chippewa Avenue and 40 will cover that whole southwestern corner.
Thank you, Fun.
Yep.
No, if I'm wrong, okay.
Stacy.
So the resolution doesn't actually put a cap on this. And I guess I would like to amend the resolution to have that cap that we budgeted and set the cap at that. We know, we were just told it's come back at 2.3. So 2.35, which is under what we had. I would just like to add that in there so we have a hard cap. So we know if it goes over that, we need to have a conversation. So
what's your cap number?
the 2.43938, what we had budgeted. Yeah, just
Which is what,
2.43938.
So, my proposal then, or my suggestion would be, you're amending this resolution to add not to exceed $2,430,938 to the end of the last, resolve clause. So that's a, motion to amend.
What was the dollar amount again?
$2,430,938.
Is that up on the board now?
It's up on the board here.
Right up on the board.
Oh.
we have the motion to amend the not to exceed the $2,430,938. Motion by Stacy Zimmer, second by Mr. Phil Undershoot. Is there any questions, comments? Or Phil Schneider, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's fine.
If not, we can vote on it.
This is on the motion to amend.
Motion to amend. Passed by the majority. Now back to the original. As amended to the resolution. Mr. Undershoots.
So in the resolution, it says, the Rusk County Board Supervisors hereby authorizing the board chair to negotiate terms and enter into the contract. Is there a negotiation we're expecting with this, or is the contract or the contract?
Right, so we don't have a physical contract from Gen Con yet, so just in the off chance that Rich sees something he doesn't like.
Okay, and I would like to amend that to have the chair negotiate the terms, but then bring it back to county board.
Council, a cap on it. With a cap on it, we can negotiate it higher than it's already capped. All we can do is go down. On price. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
State's already capped it at $2,400,000, so we can't go any beyond that. We could just save us a few bucks.
I guess, yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Alright, well, council, okay, first place. If you're good.
Yeah, I'm good with the cap on there, I guess that point, it's not like you would, change the contract.
Right, I can't.
But if something outside of the scope of what's on the resolution, that's what we got, I guess, right?
Correct. If I understand. Mr. Meyer.
Kind of with Phil on this is kind of vague, this whole thing is, so Gen Com's doing what? And Motorola's doing what?
Okay, so it's.
None of that's in here. I mean, before when we started down this, we had a presentation from Motorola as to what the whole thing was going to entail. But now we're just approving a project with an open-ended price on it. And the project isn't that specific in here.
So the only thing that Motorola is providing is the radios that are physically in each squad car. That's the only thing they're providing. Gen Con was doing the rest.
Gen Com's upgrading everything in your office area, the towers, everything else?
Correct, the consoles.
Is that gonna be in writing somewhere? Because we're approving a 2.4 project here that's pretty vague.
You have it in your packet.
Detailed.
You're getting.
Yes.
I didn't see it in here.
No, it was on the
It was in
online,
the-
in the online thing that you.
Well, I didn't have time to go through that, so that's my bad. No. No, I would have liked to have a presentation here at the board, but that's just me. I think for this type of project in the future, I'd recommend we have a presentation at the board and go farther than just a resolution.
Mr. Undershoots.
I think part of the confusion too is maybe not the
Bill,
delay.
talk louder, I don't.
I think part of the issue here was the delay in getting the information for the tower out, and I know that part of that was you didn't have all the information, so I think that's where a lot of the confusion's coming in. So, if there's like any way in future, because to be honest, I didn't have a chance from this afternoon or today when this was sent out to read through all the information in here. It would be advisable to, if there's any way to get us the information sooner, maybe this confusion. Have a different board meeting or something.
Well, duly noted. questions? If not, we can vote on it. As amended. 18 yes, 1 no, passed by majority.
Thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you, John. Number 9, entertain a motion to approve the utilization of general fund balance to purchase highway department equipment. Emily. Wait. Sorry. Motion by Mr. Miller, second by Kurt Wozniak.
Alright, so this kind of piggybacks off our presentation. Little backstory on this is, during our May meeting, the administrative coordinator brought up to our attention, to our committee, that there was a preliminary surplus of the from 23. So we, presented at that meeting, that presentation you saw earlier to our committee. We recognized the need for equipment, and we recognized that our funds and our funds cannot support the amount of equipment that we are behind. So we made a resolution to allocate $500,000 of that surplus out of the general fund to utilize for purchase of equipment at the highway department. And then at the bottom there, we're asking to authorize up to $400,000 of that $500 for the purchase of a new loader.
Any questions? Comments? This was good?
I'm just wondering, when you're thinking of the equipment, are you thinking of new equipment, secondhand equipment?
That is kind of up to the committee and the commissioner what would be the best purchase. As we found out on buying used trucks, your useful life is shortened. That would be totally up to what we find financially feasible to purchase. More than likely it would be new equipment, because we would have longer useful life out of it and lower costs. And warranty.
Tom Kudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And is the loader, is the loader new that you want to purchase?
Yep, it would be a new loader.
Mr. Willingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems to me, my understanding is that it takes quite a while, quite a bit of time when you order this equipment.
Actually, we're kind of in luck here with the loader. 3 of them are on hand. There is one, the one that we approved is on hand.
But you're talking about probably ordering some new trucks as well.
That does have a leeway. We did order December 23 approved for two plow trucks for 24. We do have the cab and chassis. That came from I-State. They are now at Monroe. That's where they get the old plow trucks, the box on. That is due December. So there's about a year leeway on plow trucks. Them are tri-axles. I don't know how much single or quad, but we're looking more for tris and single.
I guess my question revolves around the internal service fund, which generates revenue whenever we do work.
Yes.
And it would seem to me that if we're not going to be able to take possession of new equipment for a year, that maybe if we wanted to use $500,000 out of the general fund, we would be better off to use $500,000 to do some work and let that $500,000 generate additional internal service revenues going forward, rather than if we buy equipment with that money, it's not going to, if we're not doing a project, we're not going to generate any revenue from that.
But then you're falling back on the old ideology of not replacing equipment. That's why we're in this predicament, is because we didn't focus on purchasing those equipments and generating generating revenue off of.
Well, there's a difference between falling behind in your equipment and falling behind in your road projects, right?
Mhm.
So I'm thinking if you spend more money on projects, the money that you spend on those projects will generate revenue. So instead of getting $500,000 worth of equipment, you'll be able to generate revenue going forward to replenish the equipment fund as we're buying equipment.
Yep, okay, so I kinda hear what you're saying on that. The issue there is that our equipment is so far behind. It's not uncommon for us to start a job with 8 pieces of equipment to go down. So I don't know how, we're not gonna be, efficient and be completing these projects on time if, we have equipment going down and it's extending our completion.
Mr. Kudo. Thanks, Mr. Chair. Emma, just a quick question. The two new, salting trucks for plowing and salting, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get those with the stainless steel box?
Yes. Yep. Cause as he mentioned, that's kind of going forward with.
Mr. Coggins, or Miller, I'm sorry.
I guess I'm just gonna kinda clarify what she said. You're asking for this because our equipment funds are right now, but we have some major projects over the highway that we're gonna be coming up. And then every project that we have, we don't wanna come here to deal with. We got roof leaking, we have major maintenance that we're having people come look at that our equipment fund's gonna be used for. And we got a lot of stuff we gotta do out there, and we just won't have enough to pay for everything out of our equipment fund.
Mr. Brian Coggins.
Emily, could you just be more specific with 500,000? You stated 400 of it would be for a loader. That's available.
Yep.
You can take delivery of that within how long?
Yeah, a couple weeks. It's on the lots. On the lot, well.
Before the summer
Yeah,
starts?
yes, it would be within a couple weeks. I'm sure they got them moving wherever it's at.
And the other
its
100
location.
you have earmarked for other equipment?
I can't speak specific. We're gonna, if this gets approved, I'll bring it back to our, foreman, talk to the foreman initially, look at what our, our capital improvement, what piece of equipment are we needing, prioritize, and then we'll, take that earmark left out, bring it to our committee, and ask them.
So my point is 500,000 could be invested to help generate more revenue for the department.
Yeah, that would go more into the equipment
within
fund.
this year, this calendar year.
Yes, yep, cause that loader would be here, I just went off the top of my head on that capital improvement, we are, looking at a, possible, we need 3 pickup trucks and a skid steer. I don't anticipate there being any leeway on a skid steer, pickup trucks. I know Justin's been working on that, are they on that, or?
The pickups are not, 3 to 6 months.
So 3 to 6 months on the pickup trucks.
Bill Schneider.
I went on that tour, which was very informative. I think if she's offering, Justice offering, put a tour on, I think you've gotta take a tour of the equipment out there. These pictures don't even do justice to it, not by a long shot. So I hope you do that again. Not that I'll come again, but
Yeah,
I
if you
think
get enough
other people
interest,
should.
by all means, we can definitely schedule another meeting.
Because that's gonna explain what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
I do have one question.
Sure.
When you deal with the state, you always get taken. Does the state give us a fair rate of reimbursement that covers our cost plus investment?
They do set our equipment rates. I do know offhand that they are looking heavy on the equipment rates, cause they do set the rates. They do recognize that that is an issue,
Okay.
knowing inflation. So they do play ball with us. I can't speak for the state more than.
Yeah, I know. I just had to ask, cause
Yeah.
cause I saw that truck there and it's like, that's our state truck. It's like, holy 40. You know, one more question, but I can't remember what it was, so I guess I'm good. Oh. It's not relevant to this.
You guys are being tough tonight.
Huh?
Yeah, Larry.
One more thing, I don't know if she mentioned it or not, she's mentioned it at Highway and Finance, but there was a used excavator that was recently purchased too out of the equipment fund, so not everything's coming in new.
Yes, yeah, we are looking at
They
these.
found an opportunity in Texas to purchase one because the old one had cracked bolt, and in more than one spot. So that's where we're at with some of this equipment. And in regards to the equipment fund sustaining everything out there that the highway needs, number one, I would look at this from some other ways. The state hasn't really, I don't know how much they've increased your rate that you can charge back on some of these projects. If I remember right, that was a little bit of an issue. Equipment has went up tremendously. I don't know how much for percentage. Trucks, loaders, all of this stuff. And obviously, the way that the county has done this in the past with the equipment fund, funding the purchase of equipment, I don't see the equipment out there, and I'm not seeing that much money in the equipment fund. So something's not working here, to put it bluntly. Where it is, I don't have the answer for that, but it'd be definitely something to look at more.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote on it now. Nineteen yes, passed by majority vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Number 10, entertain a motion approving the July 1, 2024 general employee wage adjustments. Motion by Stacy Zimmer, second by Mike Rusk.
Mr. Zimmer?
The one
Which
that came from
resolution are you?
finance.
Okay, thank you.
You're recommending one from finance.
Yes.
So Stacy Zimmer is recommending proposal from finance. We also have proposal from personnel. So, Mr. Russell, which one are you proposing? One from finance or the one from?
Oh, I didn't pay attention to that.
So we have a motion on the floor to approve the one made by finance.
Yes.
So, is there a second to that, either that or uncheck yours?
Okay, so there are two resolutions in your packet. The Human Resources Manager brought to the Personnel Committee, her recommendation for giving staff wage increases on July 1st. The Personnel Committee, did what they felt was right with those raises and, are recommending a 1% increase, so a COLA to the entire grid, and a phased raise based off of longevity, okay? So that was forwarded to the Finance Committee. In between Personnel and Finance, we got some news from our insurance broker that our health insurance renewal might not be so great. So the Human Resources Manager shared that with the Finance Committee. Based off of that and whatever other reasons Finance step in, their recommendation to the board is no COLA to the scale, but keeping that 5-step phased increase based off of longevity. So the finance resolution does not have the 1%, the personnel resolution does have the 1%. And what Mr. Zimmer has brought to the floor is the finance version without the 1%.
It's up to you, Mr. Russell. Which one you support?
I mean, it's on the floor,
Oh, it's
that's
on the
fine.
floor, but it's-
And it's the finance one is on the
Finance
floor.
one is the one that's set on the floor. Is there any questions about the proposal for finance?
The human resources manager is here. She's on vacation with her family, but she was nice enough to hop on. So if you have questions, Ashley is here.
Thomas, Kudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, just curious, if we go into a vote on the finance one, does that then, void the personnel one?
Correct, because it's gotta be, either one has to be acted on by the 24th.
Okay. Alright.
And at this point in time, the finance one is on the floor.
So I think, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, so I think that, the main difference is on that, is on the floor is the finance one, which doesn't include the 1% cost of living adjustment to that entire grid. So it still has that same 5 steps that we have talked about, so just to review those really quick. That employees that will reach less than 1 year of service by the end of December 31st of 2024 will receive a 1-step increase on the wage scale. And then employees with 1 to 3 years of service will receive a 2-step. 4 to 6 years will receive a 3-step, 7 to 9 a 4-step, and then 10 plus will be a 5-step. So that financial impact with that 1% COLA increase was $200,000. So for July 1st to the end of the year. So looking at like next year, you have the compounding, but it would be $400,000. So that's why when we got our insurance renewals back at first, we were kind of like, okay, this is too much. So we had to bring them to the finance committee, let them know that. So that's when the finance committee had talked about taking that 1% COLA out, which would decrease the financial impact by about $37,000. So it means the financial impact from July 1st through the end of the year at approximately $161,000. So it also was noted by a board member at the finance committee that employee morale is at an all-time low in the courthouse, and that cutting that 1% cost of living at that cost of $37,000 is that worth it, or do we just keep that in? And that's kind of where we had discussed that.
Mr. Willingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a little bit, maybe more than a little bit confused, but the finance committee version of the resolution, it says, therefore, be it resolved that the Rusk County Board of Supervisors does approve and adopt the above recommendation of the Personnel Committee. The above recommendation is not the recommendation of the Personnel Committee, and I would think that to be accurate, it should say the Finance Committee. Am I correct?
That would be, I would think you are correct.
Did I hear the Human Resources Manager recommending that we not drop the 1% or keep that in or not? Is that what I heard?
I can't really say one way or the other. I just felt that ethically we had to make you aware of that. So when the personnel committee met and, brought this forward with that 1% COLA in there, we did not have our preliminary health insurance renewals yet. We got those in between the personnel meeting and the finance meeting, and so I just felt like I had to say something of where renewal was coming in. And so then the finance committee had discussed about, okay, what do we want to do? And it was to try to maybe decrease that financial impact a little bit, but take out the cost of living and still do that same step to kind of help that congestion on the bottom. Looking at it, it's the 1% COLA. It's so hard to say what's going to happen. We're definitely having meetings with our insurance and doing things to try to improve that. Like I said, that's a very preliminary number, but we just wanted to make you guys aware of that so you could make that decision on how much you're comfortable spending on the wage increase.
Any other questions? Mr. Wedway.
Do we need, follow up on Mr. Willingham's thing on the finance one, to change the recommendation to the finance committee? Does that need to be an amendment, or can that just be
I would say unless there's an objection, I think that's just a typo. I will insert the finance committee on the last, now therefore be it resolved. I think that suffices, Mr. Long.
Editorial.
Good with that?
Since we have some new members, I'm gonna go with a speech I've been going over for years. Please look at the Rusk County website, job applications. $20 plus for all the jobs that are in there, except for 2. EMTs, 1742 maybe. First responders, 11, 12, I don't know what it is. That's disgusting. These are people out dealing with your relatives, and we're treating them this way. That is totally ridiculous. I swore last time, nothing happened, that I was not gonna vote for this pay raise. I will vote for the pay raise because I shouldn't take it out on the rest of the staff. But something has to be done. The sheriff's department gets more people going through interviews than we do, as EMTs and first responders. Something has to be done to that pay scale, and they've gotta get in this Carlson-Detman thing, somehow. I don't know how. I've been asked numerous times, if they ever come here, let me know, I'm gonna talk to them and find out what the heck is going on. Haven't heard anything, so, just information for all the new members. Just look at the job.
Just to clarify with that, the EMTs and EMRs are not on the Carlson-Detman, so they would not be impacted by this wage scale increase. That would come forward with a resolution for their wages, which I do think Tom is, working on something for that.
Well, I've been working on it for years and it hasn't happened.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote on it. Yes, passed by majority vote. Number 11, entertain a motion to approve interim highway commissioner retroactive compensation from May 23rd, 2024 to June 2nd, 2024. That should do this. Ashley, HR.
Okay, good. Did you do the motion in a second? Okay, sorry.
Okay, sorry, I didn't say that yet. Alec Hampton, motion and second by Mr. Felderschutz. Okay, now go.
Okay. So this one from May 21st to June 2nd would have been when the operations manager took the interim position, which is a salary position. So we are requesting a monthly stipend of $1,500 from May 21st to June 2nd. Looking at the number of days that he was in that position, it would be 13 days, and the financial impact without fringe benefits would be $629.03. Any questions?
Any questions? If not, we can vote on it. Yes, passed by majority. 12, approve interim highway commissioner compensation from July 3rd, 2024. Mr. Goodis, just a minute, need a motion? Stacy Zimmer makes a motion, second by Alec Hampton. Now go ahead.
Okay, so then this one, we had, a new commissioner take effect June 3rd. It was an hourly employee, so what we have done in the past for an hourly employee is putting them actually on the wage scale, so wanting to approve of step 1 of the commissioner scale, which is $38.79 per hour. So her current wage right now, the highway accountant 3 is $25.62, which is a rate difference of $13.17. So with that difference in wages per pay period, it's a little over, or like $2,250. So we would anticipate this to be a total cost of about $10,000 with fringe benefits if she remains the interim commissioner through 8/8/24 based on the overtime hours that were reported in that last pay period. Just keep in mind, we don't have an ops manager or a commissioner, so there wouldn't be any additional cost needed to cover the impact of cost savings with those 2 position vacancies. And the resolution was wrote, through August 8th, or until the position is filled for a new highway commissioner. Any questions?
So I would just like to state that there was, a minor error in the resolution as presented, so it's the fourth whereas clause, and then the now therefore be it resolved has 3870, and it should be 3879. Yep, it's just.
Anybody got any questions?
Right.
Oh, this is the fixed one.
The one that was sent out in the packet.
Terry?
If we're changing that in the packet here, I know picky, the last paragraph, now therefore be it resolved that the county board of supervisors does, can it be hereby instead of hereby? Been a rough day.
Ms. Wilska?
I was wondering, what happens if she doesn't go through 8824? Or it says, that's what it's going to be if approximately.
Yeah, so first would be an hourly wage, so if, she doesn't go through 8A, if we hire a commissioner before then, she would go back to that normal wage of $25.62 for that highway accountant's rate, so then it would be less than that $10,000. We're just predicting by the time we get the commissioner in the role, it'll probably be about that time frame.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote on it. 19 yes, passed by majority. 13. Entertain a motion to approve changes to the Rusk County Personal Handbook. Any motion? No motion. Okay, entertain a motion by Mr. Brian Coggins, second by Mike Ruffalo. Ashley?
Okay, so this resolution is talking about the personnel handbook changes, which there's 3 changes that we have, been discussing for the personnel handbook. So all 3 changes you guys will see should have in your packet for the updated red line policies. So the first one is the approved change to the discipline and termination process. So last board meeting, you guys all heard me talk about the proposed change to that process and how it needed to go back to personnel so that the current personnel committee could approve that. So personnel, they did go back there and they passed it to go back to the county board. So high level overview really quick of that policy is that we're wanting to change the number of different levels from 5 to 4. So there would be the verbal warning, written warning, suspension with or without pay, and then termination. And then the big change is with that termination. So the department head, HR manager, and administrative coordinator would determine if termination of employment is necessary for staff, with the exception of appointed officials. So instead of going through the personnel committee and that hearing process, it would be decided with those 3 individuals. The recommendations with those appointed officials would still be referred to the board through the HR manager for disposition. So, I think the other big thing to note really quick is if there would be a vacancy in the department head, HR manager, or the administrative coordinator, and an interim wasn't named, the personnel committee would appoint another department head, manager, or supervisor to be involved in that termination decision. And if they felt they couldn't name somebody, the recommendation for that discipline would go back to how it is now, and it would go through that personnel committee in that hearing. So I know that one concern that was brought up at the last board meeting was that Rusk County had chosen to be an administrative coordinator county, so thus leaving that power with the board. We did reach out to all other counties in the state and had many people respond. There was only one other county who had all terminations go through the entire personnel committee, and that county who was a dual role with the board chair. A few other counties do choose to involve their board, but in the aspect of the personnel committee chair only, so they're still avoiding the hearing process then. But a majority of the counties handle their discipline and termination how we're recommending with that department head, HR, and county administration, so. And then just really quick on that too, so just, you know, it's not something that we take lightly to make these decisions, and they're really only escalated to that level if we feel that we have that solid evidence that warrants termination of an employee. So we just really feel that those personnel issues should not have to be laid out in public, and it does present the county with greater liability doing that. So the department heads do have that knowledge of the day-to-day of what's going on in all those details, and then HR being that neutral third party to investigate the details with that unbiased opinion. So when you involve other committees and a bunch of other people, it's really hard for me as HR manager too to ensure that the committee has all of that same information with all the details at the same time, and that it's all unbiased. So that's the review about that one. The second one with the resolution is to approve the change to the policy regarding comp time. So currently, our employees are allowed to approve comp time off in lieu of overtime, up to a maximum of 40 hours on the basis of 1.5 time for each hour of overtime worked. And our comp time that's not used during the calendar year is carried over from year to year and is not cashed out unless the employee leaves the county. So the county then extends the last day of employment in order to pay out accrued comp time. So the main concern with this is regarding the Fair Labor Standard Act. So according to the Fair Labor Standard Act, comp time has to be used within 365 days from earning it, or it must be paid out on the next paycheck. So I'm recommending with this that we do what other counties are doing and pay out at the end of the year in order to avoid tracking that. When was it earned, and did we pay it out, or did they use it within that 365 days from earning it? Or we could have to potentially pay penalties, or if we had to extend the employee's last day of employment, it could go into a new month, which would be extending their insurance coverage just to pay out that comp time. So, Jamie, I think you have the financial impact on that?
Yes, I just, looked at the numbers as of 12/15/2022, and it was about a $20,000 liability. However, I think the actual budget impact would be less than that, because part of that is the highway fund, or highway department, which their comp time is already expensed when it's earned, because they're a full accrual fund. So the payout of that really wouldn't have any sort of budget impact. A lot of it is health and human services for social workers who have the option to earn comp time for their on-call hours or get paid. So I think that if this change is made in advance, as if it gets approved tonight, departments would have plenty of time to plan for this, so that they could utilize those leave balances before year end comes around, because they're comping that time in most cases because they want to take that time off instead of getting paid for it. So I think that if they're aware of the change in the policy, that the department heads encourage them to utilize it so that it doesn't have a budget impact, that it really won't have a whole lot of a fiscal impact.
Thank you. So essentially that policy in the handbook then just states that we would pay out on the last paycheck of that calendar year unless arrangements were made to utilize that comp time before the end of the year. And then that comp time would not be paid out any other time unless the employee leaves employment with exchange. So that's what that policy is changing. And then the third one is the telecommuting work from home policy. So as you guys are all probably well aware, work from home or that telecommuting is something that we have talked about at the county for the last few months, or at least since I started, and I think a couple months before I started in January. In surveying other counties, we had 34 counties respond, and every county except for one did report that they allow some sort of telecommuting, whether it be allowed full-time for certain departments or on a situational or intermittent basis, based on what the department head and administration feels at their discretion. So we are losing employees for a number of reasons, higher wages, better benefits, the ability to work from home, especially in our HHS department. Telecommuting is a free benefit that we can offer to our employees to help with that recruitment and retention process. That's something that's not going to cost us any money. And it has been a discussion of the personnel committee, like I said, since January when I started. And last month, two personnel I brought 3 different options to the committee. So one is what you see tonight and what passed, and then there was a situational intermittent option, and then a third one that didn't allow any sort of telecommuting. So the policy that's presented in your packet does allow employees to work remotely for part of their work week if their work can be accounted for and a clear record of time worked is established. So the department head, in conjunction with HR, would determine if an employee can telecommute and then how often it would be allowed. And then it goes over eligibility of who's allowed to telecommute, and then all the expectations are really thoroughly spelled out there in that policy. The employee must then fill out a request form and sign the telecommuting agreement, and the request must be approved by the supervisor, department head, and HR. And then the arrangement can be changed or canceled by the employer at any time, and it should be canceled if the employee has any performance issues, change in job responsibilities, or if the needs of the department are not being met. So that is an overview of the 3 things changing in the personnel.
How did all 3 of these get rolled up, correct me if I'm mistaken here, into one resolution? I believe they were passed individually at the personnel committee, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I'll take blame for that, I said put them on one resolution.
So we have one here, the comp time one, which when explained to me at personnel, was kind of something we needed to do. Because it was boo-boo. And now we have 2 thrown in here with the same thing that are, if we want to do, that kind of could be looked at as a benefit to employees. Or to management.
And they're all, the reason I said that, they're all changes to the personal handbook.
They're all changes to the personal handbook, but we're kind of, I look at this as, we have one here, the comp time one that needs to be done, no way around it. And now, in order to vote that one through, the other 2 that could be argued, come along for a free ride. Oh, I'm against the work from home thing, and everybody's known that.
Sure.
So, I don't like the way this was put together at all. I'll just say that for the record. I won't vote for it the way it is, but that's all I got to say on it.
Mr. Kudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just cut to the chase here. I would recommend to amend, this, resolution to nix the 3rd part of it and pass the first 2.
So, if you can, then hit your, you wanna make that as a motion?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then hit your amend button, and your amendment is to remove the telecommunication policy from the resolution.
Yes.
Correct?
Motion by Mr. Kudo, is there a second? Second by Mr. Meyer. Is there any discussion on the fact of what we're doing, Mr.
To remove what?
To remove the telecommunication policy from the resolution. Or to telecommunicating.
When we're talking about giving raises to employees because of employee morale and everything else, this is a free benefit to give the telecommuting. That's probably the part I feel the strongest on is to allow work from home. I don't see why you would strike that from the policy.
Thank you, Chairman. Ashley, could you, I didn't see in there, and maybe I missed it, on how a department head would set this up with an employee. I mean, I think set up well, I think this can be a great benefit for employees, but would it be a set schedule, say Tuesday, Thursday, this employee is working from home, or would it be Monday afternoon, they're saying, I need to be home, can I work from home? And it's, you know, is it more structured than what maybe some people think it would not be?
Yeah, it did pass with the supervisor being able to determine the number of days per week or per payroll period that the employee would be allowed to telecommute. So on their form that they would have to fill out, their request form, they would fill out, their requested days and how many days they would expect to telecommute. And then it's kind of on that department head to determine how they're going to work in their department. I think I can see some departments that would allow very intermittently or situationally, depending on what is going on. And then other departments that, maybe, somewhere in HHS where a lot of other jobs are working from home consistently 2 or 3 days a week, maybe they would do that in that department where, some of those other ones would be very, very few and far between. There's a lot of stipulations in here that it can't affect, the department's business. We are open to the public, like public facing. It can't affect that. The employee can't have any kind of performance issues or be supervising employees, on a day-to-day basis, that type of thing. So, so to answer your question in short, it really is up to the department head.
I've got one other question. What do the department heads think of this proposal? As far as the work from home policy? What are their thoughts on it? Department heads.
The department heads are very happy that they would be able to offer this to their employees.
Okay.
And I know, I've had a couple of conversations with people recently just with, some situations going on, and I've had some very good conversations with department heads about like, this employee, I wouldn't allow them to for this reason, but this employee, so I think they realize that that is going to be on them, and they would need to make these decisions for their employees on who, because they have to be just as productive, if not more productive at home, and there has to be a clear way to be able to make sure that their work is getting done.
Thanks for clarifying things.
Kurt?
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. I briefly, we talked about this before, actually, I kind of mentioned it to you, but how are department heads and supervisors allowed to work from home? Or how does that, I read through it too, and I didn't see, how, are they approved to work from home, or what's the policy with that?
Yeah, we kind of talked about that a little bit. I don't have anything specifically written into that they would or would not be, but I think my situation and a lot of other department head situations as well, they feel, that their job is a lot of supervising their employees in the day-to-day operations, and they need to be there to be able to do that. So, the other thing that we could do, they could have to get that permission from their committee, their oversight committee technically would be their supervisor, and it's written in the policy that your supervisor and HR have to sign off on it, but, for me personally and a couple other department heads, I think a lot of people understand that those positions would very infrequently be able to work from home.
I agree that you can't supervise from home, you can't manage employees from home, so I would be against managers and department heads of the work from home policy.
Any other questions? Mr. Willingham?
To speak to the amendment, Mr. Chairman, we had a rather spirited debate in the personnel committee. There was a lot of discussion about policy changes in general. I sort of came away from that discussion with the same impression that Mr. Meyer did in regard to considering these individually rather than lumping them together, and then sort of putting us through the tortuous process of having to amend them out if that's the will of the board. I don't have real strong feelings about the work from home policy, but I also believe that while there might be some morale pluses, I think there could be some morale minuses as well. Employees are acutely aware of anything that even hints at unfairness. And so when you're saying you have a discussion with the department, and say, well, I wouldn't let this person work from home, for whatever reason, somewhere along the line, you're gonna have somebody's gonna get approved to work from home, and and somebody else isn't gonna get approved to work from home, and they're going to feel like they've been treated unfairly for that reason. There are other issues that, I think it's a lot easier to work from home when you have a more measurable, output and performance, and when you, just have a sort of a general workload. So, in that regard, I would be voting, for the amendment.
Sherry Wallace.
Thank you. I feel like we're trying to micromanage our department heads and telling them how they should do their jobs. We hired our department heads and their supervisors to do a job in supervising the people under them. If they think this is a good idea to allow them, should we be supervising the department heads and not the people under them? Or should we give them the opportunity to maintain their employees with free stuff if they see fit to do so?
Okay. So let's just say, for example, someone doesn't come to the courthouse very often. And they pick that one day they're gonna come into the courthouse. And they're gonna go to that one department, something they need to take care of. And they walk in there that day. That's the day that person may be working at that front counter is working from home. And they maybe took an afternoon off. I cannot say too much detail, but there's something similar going on in this courthouse right now. So then let's just say department head's filling in for that individual. And you ask some questions that only the person that would've been working there would've known. But now, you can't, you just spent 2 hours or whatever of your day to come in for some information, and you can't get it. How's that fair to the taxpayers in this county? This is left way too wide open. You're gonna let department heads, then let them set their own hours then. What do we need hours at the courthouse for? Let them pick the days they wanna work. I mean, we're giving raises, we're giving this, we're giving that, we're always so worried about, well, when's it gonna come down to people need to show up and do their job? We're representing 14,000 people in this county. Yes, thank you.
Nancy.
This is a conversation we had in the personnel committee. And that there was a lot of ideas kicked around, and to Jim's point, to Mr. Willingham's point, we had a very spirited discussion about this. Number one, are the job duties to be performed conducive for telecommuting? Number two, does telecommuting fit within the needs of the department? Again, are we gonna trust our department heads and supervisors to do their jobs, or are we gonna come in and hold their hands every day? It's time we put them in a position to do their jobs. And if they're failing to do their jobs, then it's our responsibility to hold them accountable for that.
Any other questions on?
Just one more. What he said, what she said.
Okay, that's very quick. Mr. Kudo.
I guess I would just like to add, there are people that will look at this as an opportunity, possibly to relieve some type of physical activity at home, be it childcare or whatever. So we're gonna have people at home that are supposed to be working, but they're gonna also be taking care of their children. So I would have to ask then, how productive can an individual be on a job basis if they also have to be watching their children trying to work at home? Just something to consider. I don't think we're restricting our department heads by not allowing this to happen. I actually think that by not allowing this to happen at this point in time, we're respecting their ability to monitor their employees right here in the office. Thank you.
Okay, I think we beat this can long enough, everybody got the same opinion one way or another.
So just for the record, this is on the, motion to amend to remove the telecommuting, policy from this resolution, on the amendment.
It's on the amendment, we can vote now. Nine yes, 10 no, failed, majority vote. Now we can go back to the original resolution.
Correct.
Which was to approve the changes to Rusk County Personal Handbook, motion by Brian Coggin, second by Mike Russell. Mr. Williams.
I would like to move to amend the resolution by striking references to the administrative coordinator, HR manager, and department heads having the authority to handle all disciplines except for appointed officials.
Minus, so you're okay going from 5 to 4 levels, is that correct?
Yeah, that's okay, that's not a problem.
For a second.
Could you repeat this, Chris? Could you please repeat your amendment? Could you please repeat it?
It would just strike out all the language in regard to allowing the department head, the HR manager, and the administrative coordinator to do all the discipline. And firing of employees, except for those employees who are appointed by the board, which is department head.
Mr. Chair, can I speak for?
Are you saying, you're saying it's not?
It's filled out.
That should have that?
Yes.
Authority?
Yes.
So just essentially what he's saying, just so everyone is clear, Mr. Kudos, so you understand is that we would be keeping the process essentially how it is, we're just going down to 4 discipline levels instead of 5, but our termination of our majority of our staff would have to go through that hearing process and go through the personnel committee and go through all of that process.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the amendment, Mr. Chairman. Again, we did have a spirited, robust debate in personnel, and, let's compliment the members of the committee. We did a spirited, debate without, being disrespectful, and we came away from it, so it was not a unanimous vote, to, recommend this, change to the board. I think one of the issues that arises out of this is sort of the who do we trust argument about the board yielding more of its power and authority to department heads and administrators. I understand that argument. However, I don't think it's a trust issue. We trust our financial director, but we still have a huge policy and procedure manual that finance director must follow, and we hire an auditor to check the books every year. We trust many of our department heads for many of their functions, but that doesn't mean that the board doesn't want to exercise its oversight through policy. And I don't see I see a policy change here, but I don't see a set of policies to provide guidance and restrictions or limitations on how those powers would be exercised. I think if you remember from our training last week, Mr. Phillips mentioned, having a set of board rules and policies. These are the kinds of policies that he was talking about. Management limitations policies that provide a guideline for telling, our administration, and administrators how they exercise their power or what their limitations of that power is. And at this point, we don't have those kind of policies, and I do not believe that we should be ceding the authority at this time of the board to, in this matter. So, as I say, I like to have support to cut this out of the handbook changes.
So the chart form is actually just saying HR, AC, and
So all the determination is.
Nobody has any power, they have to take it through other committees and so on and so forth?
Correct. All you're doing is removing the step from 5 to 4. Does that everybody understand the amendment?
Is that, what number is that we're talking about?
It's, what do you mean, what number?
Strike out level 1 and create level 2, 3, 4, 5 down to 4. But don't give the power to terminate or discipline to
So which one is
Actually,
that on?
Curtis, did you wanna say something?
on the next page.
Alright, if there's any other questions or discussion on this, we can vote now.
This is on the amendment to remove the powers or the ability of HR and, administrative coordinator and department head to terminate an employee. On the amendment.
Ten yes, 9 no, passed by the majority vote.
I'd like to make an amendment to the telecommuting policy that each individual request needs to be approved by the oversight committee.
To amend number 3. By Mr. Meyer, is there a second? Second by Mr. Dillon. I can't remember exactly what you said.
Each individual work from home request will be approved by the individual's oversight committee.
Is there any questions or comment on that? I can't even hear
She was talking to her child, I don't think she was talking.
her. Stacy?
How many committee meetings do we wanna be in every month to approve this stuff? I mean, that's what we're going back to now is, now we're going to have multiple committee meetings to approve this policy. Let the supervisors and the department heads handle this. Let's stop playing the games with it and let's just move on.
Well, it's good.
I was just wondering who were the oversight committees that were gonna be responsible for doing this? Does that mean personnel or does that mean?
Depends on the department. I guess, I don't know.
Would you like me to clarify my motion? I mean, it said, if the employee is in highway, then they go to the highway committee. That is what was meant by my motion.
Is there any questions or comments? Mike Russell?
I, in regards to what Stacy said, Our job is oversight, not day-to-day operations. We're drilling down about 5 levels more than we should be. You just take a job in the highway department and take pictures.
Just to clarify, whose responsibility is it now, just the immediate supervisor? I mean, who, not the committee, from that department?
We have no policy for
Where is it?
Mr. Willingham.
Yeah, we have.
Hold on.
I'm done. I'm done.
Space.
Policy, the form is right here. Supervisor signature, department head signature, human resources signature. The employee needs 3 signatures to be able to work from home. It has to go through 3 people before it's approved. We really wanna, again, we really wanna continue to have committee meetings to address this issue when there's 3 people already going to be addressing it.
How many people are currently working from home? Who wants to answer?
I am not sure. I would say about a dozen.
So we have a dozen individuals right now working from home that didn't follow this process, correct? Because.
We have no process.
But we don't have a policy, this has been my argument before, we don't have a policy that they can work from home. And we still let it happen. So you guys are gonna sit in here and tell me this isn't gonna get abused? In my personal opinion, it's already been done.
Mr. Anderson.
Currently, we don't have a policy that people work from home. Now we're recommending to actually put some procedures in place. I don't think we should have a problem with it.
Any more discussion? If not, we'll vote on.
So this is on the motion to amend the resolution to require that in order to, if for an employee to use the telecommuting policy, it has to get approval of the oversight committee. On the amendment to the resolution.
Yes, no, fail. Fail by majority vote. Back to the original resolution. Please.
So this is now back on the original resolution, which is, which amended the termination policy to remove the HR and administrative coordinator and the department head, so the process continues. The only thing that policy does is change it from 4 steps to 3 steps. I'm sorry, 5 to 4.
What is this on now?
This is now on the main resolution.
Okay.
As amended, one time.
Got it.
So we're about to 3 people over you.
No, we are striking any change to how we terminate people, so it would still go through personnel.
Yeah, it still comes through personnel, which is
So just to clarify, the way that amendment is, any termination, any employee has to come to personnel committee now.
So yes, nothing will have changed, so.
Right.
General staff terminations go through the personnel committee, appointed official terminations go through the full board, so it would stay the same.
All you did is remove a step from 5.
I knew that, I just wasn't clear on the process up to now. I'm new.
Mr. Willingham.
Just a quick addition, Mr. Chairman. I am hoping that the personnel committee will take a little bit bit different look at this. And I think some of the earlier steps of discipline could be done by the department head and HR, and reserve termination for the present process. But we'd have to develop a policy that would do that. So verbal warning or written warning would come from the supervisor and not through the personnel committee, and only termination would go there.
Yes, Ms. Ashley, go ahead.
We already do that currently, what Mr. Willingham is saying. The first processes are with the department head and HR. It's when we need to officially discipline somebody, which would be like suspension with or without pay, and actual termination. So the first steps of the policy already do happen at the level of the department head and administration.
Any other question, discussion on this? Just for the resolution of approved changes to the Rusk County personnel handbook. As amended. If not, we can vote on this. Yes, passed by majority vote.
Yeah, that was fun.
Number 13, entertain motion to approve the provision of short-term financial assistance to the Northwest Wisconsin Employee Program Incorporated. Gary Wedwick. Need a motion by Mr. Wedwick and a second by Mr. Russell.
Okay, I'm the official representative from the Rusk County Board on the SEP and CLEO boards. SEP is the Concentrated Employment Program. Most of you probably have never heard of it. This has come about because their year ends June 30th and they've had some of their funds cut. So they're asking, there's 10 members, we're in a 10-county area, and they are asking each of the 10 counties to loan them $5,000 to get them through this cash flow problem. It would not be repaid until December of 2025, because they're going to have to make up the funds through this. They have been working, they formed a rapid response team to work with Gel Wen. They had 3 area things, the Ladysmith Library, Hawkins Library, and I believe Phillips Library, for people. It helps them with job training, dislocated workers, what they can do with unemployment services, also for Navigator, which would be for insurance, if they lose their insurance or stuff like that, which Navigator is basically Obamacare, or how to get through all of that with job training, all of this. So they've had the rapid response thing, it's going to continue. Again, it's from the 10 counties of Ashland, Bayfield, Burnett, Douglas, Iron, Price, Rusk, Sawyer, Taylor, and Washburn. Already 4 counties have agreed to this. And that's to date Price, Bayfield, Ashland, and Douglas. Other counties are meeting just like we are probably tonight and in the beginning of July. This came about because, again, some of their administrative funds were cut. And so they're asking again for a short-term loan, again, to be paid back by December 2025. And they are, again, providing services for Gel Wen, and they provide other services here in the county that, again, probably don't know about or anything like that. Are there any questions?
No questions? Mr. Kudo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I mean, I don't mind having somebody out, but what guarantee do we have they're gonna pay us back?
There is no guarantee.
So we could be out $5,000.
That's right.
Mr. Phil Schneider.
As Terry said, you probably don't know about them, but if you need them, you're gonna find them. And they are very important with this Hawkins thing now, so, and other ones.
Good. Mr. Willingham.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. While there isn't a guarantee for the loan, the reality is that this organization is a creature of the 10 counties. And if the organization were to fail and there were insufficient funds to cover their losses, the counties would be obligated to pay it off. And that goes back decades. And the formula of the Department of Workforce Development regional programs, so. The loan is a better choice than paying off. It would cost more to pay off the debt. If most of the debt, or most of the problem, as Mr. Wedwick has shared with you, is a cash flow problem created both by a couple of cuts, but also by just plain delays in paying their invoices. They have, their accounts receivable are more than 60 days past due coming in. So, and then most of that's from state agencies. So, the state that likes to do this, they collect interest on the county's money while the county waits for it. School districts pay interest on short-term loans in the same way, so.
Ms. Wilson.
I was just wondering who was, reducing their money that
about half their funds come from WIOLA, and that's a federal program, that's the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and it's a federal program that goes to the state, and the state then allocates it to SEP, actually to CLEO. You wanna know all of the details, CLEO's chief local elected officials who turn it over then to SEP, and SEP is audited both by a public accounting firm and also by WIB, which is the Workforce Investment Board, and also the state comes in and audits them for their records to make sure everything is on the level. If what Mr. Willingham had talked about, we are liable, 10 counties are, if there was malfeasance with the WIOLA funds, if there was something crooked or spent illegally, the 10 counties have to pay that back. I mean, that is a law. This is nothing to do with that. This is just a cash flow problem. And like he said, they've got state contracts. They also have a lot of grants that they go after and everything too. And some of their grants have been cut. And again, they are the ones that are providing the services for all these people that are being laid off and everything. And just so you are aware, I believe it was mentioned that the school district of Superior, I think there's 45 people being laid off now. Ashland College was going to close, Northland College was going to close in Ashland. I believe they are now going to stay open, but with reduced scope. And then we've got Jaldwin here. Marshfield's been laying off a lot of people. I mean, so they're working with all of this. I mean, this is, for $5,000, you get more than your money's worth out of all of that. And again, a lot of it has to do with, they get the state thing like, I believe the Navigator grant is for insurance, and they actually make money on that. But again, the state is 2 months behind, I believe, and so again, it's a cash flow problem. And they know about this, they're already taking steps to make sure this never happens again. This is kind of embarrassing for them, because this has never happened before. And so that's why they're just asking each of the 10 counties to put in 5,000 and, be paid back by December of 2025.
You say Price County passed this?
Yep. The 4 counties that have passed it so far are Price, Bayfield, Ashland, and Douglas. And like I say, there are other counties probably meeting tonight. I know we're meeting the first week of. So if we pass it, then half the counties have already done it. Price County was going a little bit different direction to begin with, but that got defeated. They were going to advance the 50,000 to SEP and then have the other 9 counties pay the 5,000 to Price County. But the board decided, no, that's not a good way. Each of the counties should pay their share right up front.
Any more questions? If not, we can vote on. Yes, passed by the majority vote.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Number 15, entertain some motion to authorizing Rusk County to enter into settlement agreement with the coal company and agree to the terms of addendum 2 the MOU allocating settlement proceeds. Entertain a motion by Mr. Undershoot, second by Mr. Russell.
So back in 2023, the county board approved a settlement with Teva, Allergen, Walgreens, Walmart, CVS Pharmacy, for the opioid abatement proceeds. And so since then, this Teva has been added to that, so this is the same type of settlement agreement where we're basically saying we want to participate and we want to get our portion of the opioid abatement, funds, and then when we receive those funds, they would be used for opioid abatement purposes. I believe Jeremy's been working on a primary prevention specialist position, where these funds would help fund that position.
Any questions? If not, we can vote on it.
It's one of our hesitant votes.
I did not write
19
it.
yes, passed by majority. Number 16, entertain a motion the creation of the social service case manager position. Motion by Mr. Schneider, motion by Mr. Russell. Jeremy.
Good evening once again.
Yes.
What's that?
Love yes.
Thank you. So, the resolution before you, keeping in light with a couple other, changes that were highlighted for semantics, on line 19, there should be, that should read that, updated job description and questionnaire is needed for review by Councilman Detman. In this resolution, this is a heavy ask here. There is, in line with all the other things that you've been talking about tonight, our department is asking for the creation of a social services case manager, which effectively is just lowering the degree type that would be able to be reviewed by, or during a recruitment effort. That being said, currently right now in our makeup, we are experiencing some very heavy loss in our Children and Family Services department. Children and Family Services, we have 6 folks that work in that department, and then a supervisor, and then we have our Adult Services division that has 2 frontline workers and a supervisor. In the last 1.5 years, we have lost 3 folks to resignations in our Children and Family Services unit, and currently we have 1 opening, and we have another pending resignation on July 12th. This is a very difficult department to work in. We're dealing with investigating child protection needs, abuse, neglect. In our Adult Services division, we're talking about elder abuse and other investigative things, along with mental health and alcohol and drug addiction folks. And so these are 2 departments within our 7 departments that are very, very difficult to staff. The additional difficulty here is that, in the regions, the western region and the northern region of our state, we are experiencing the same thing. Staffing patterns have been very competitive. So I, again, just somewhat selfishly, I appreciate the wage adjustment concern earlier tonight. That was a very significant thing within our department, and so I thank you for that. The challenges that we have that really make a rationale for this ask is that some of the things that I've said, but at the same time, additional workforce in this discipline. Folks are not going to college for this anymore. Social work is becoming something that is a challenge at universities like University of Wisconsin-Stout and throughout the state. Historically, those places have turned out social work staff that would make applications in county agencies pretty robust. Pretty slim pickings right now to come up with social work staff. So that being said, the ask here is Ashley Goodis, myself, Ashley Heath have had a discussion. We called Phil Schneider, our Human Services Board Chair. We called Rich Summerfield to fact check us a little bit on some of these things. Then we reached out to Stacy Zimmer as the chair of the personnel committee, and to ask this resolution be brought forward to you tonight. This does not mean that we are going to race out and fill all of the positions with associate's degree. What we're finding is we have folks that are applying for our positions with associate's degree that have coupling experience. And maybe they're not a school person, maybe they're not interested in gaining additional education and those types of things. We have the mechanism within our Department of Children and Family Services from the state level for foundational training that regardless of degree type, you are trained at the same level to the standards of Chapter 48, our Children's Code, and 938, our Juvenile Justice Code. And so it is, again, not specific to degree type. So again, the ask is that we would be able to forge ahead with sending it to Carlson-Tettman to scale it. The way we see it right now is a certified social worker is a grade 12 with a starting pay of $25.94. A social service worker is a grade 11, which is a step of $24.57. We anticipate that this would be in line with grade 10, which would be $23.30. This also creates an incentive that if somebody does want to go back to school and attain a further degree, they could step up those ladders and also obtain social work certification. So that is our ask tonight. One specific statutory reference that I just want to read quick. This has been something that through the counties, Bayfield County, Ashland County, Sawyer County, to name 3 in our northern and western region that have entertained this same type of job description. Chapter 48.56, child welfare services in counties having populations of less than 750,000, each county having a population of less than 750,000, shall provide child welfare services through its county department. Each county department shall employ personnel who devote all or part of their time to child welfare services. Whenever possible, these personnel shall be social workers certified under Chapter 457. And so again, it is something that is allowed by statute. This is not contingent on funding. In fact, this is a cost-neutral opportunity for us to open up this within our job recruitment. It's a heavy ask. It's something that they're very difficult positions within our department, and we see a lot of turnover, a lot of secondary trauma for our workers because they're dealing with some very difficult things that are done within our community. Any questions?
Sure. So this resolution is creating a new position, or you're replacing the bachelor with the associates to help recruitment efforts?
Yeah, we're creating a new position. We're not replacing anything. We're asking for a third tier opportunity at an associate's level degree type.
So they're expanding the job scope to allow lesser educated people to do that, not adding additional staff.
Say that again, Mr. Wong.
So you're not replacing
Resolution says creating a
Correct.
position.
Correct.
So are you replacing a position then?
This position currently isn't in your code at all, so you have to create the job description for that. But it's not a social worker, and the hope is that because you can't find social workers, they'd have to come back for additional funding to get a different person to fill all the social workers and this one.
No additional staff will be added to our department. No additional staff. These are the 6 positions in children and family services will remain, and the 2 positions in adult services will remain. But they happen to be social service workers that are certified. They could be just a bachelor's level social service worker, and this would add an opportunity to increase the pool as a social services case manager, which would be associate level degree type.
Okay, so you said you're creating a new position that if somebody qualifies for this, you can stick them here, but you're still only gonna have the same amount of.
We only have 8. We only have 8 folks in those 2 departments total.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, it's a great question. I kick this thing around because usually Mr. Summerfield says, in 1 page, Mr. Jacobs, okay? But I had like 9 pages worth of things I'd like to spell that out. And so this is clear and concise to the point. We're not adding any staff. There will be, as Jamie put on here, I believe, there is no fiscal impact. In fact, it'll potentially be a reduction because of the pay grade and that's that. It's a good question though, very good question.
Any other questions? Mr. Phil Schneider.
I just got one. I must apologize to the board members here that are on human services. If you go back in Jeremy's short speech at the beginning of it, we got a hole. And rather than wait and go through human services, and Stacy, I think, agreed with the whole thing, we just agreed to get this rolling, so we need it. So we skipped a step, but I wouldn't want that job out there. If you get somebody to do it, fine.
I appreciate you taking the blame, Mr. Schneider, but it was me. It was me to do the ask because we're in a potential 2-down scenario in our staff, which then puts increased pressure on the rest of the staff. If we've got folks that are applying for this job that think they can do the job, we're gonna interview them, we're gonna vet them, and if possible, we're gonna bring them on. But we can't do that in the current system.
Ms. Wells, go ahead.
I was wondering about the number 19, submission of an update job description questionnaire is needed for review by Carl for accurate scale placement. How can you do this if they aren't going to cover it?
Yeah, super good.
Put it in.
If I understand your question accurately, the job description questionnaire that we currently have right now for a social worker and a social service worker, it'll be exactly the same except for the degree type. And so we will submit that and the job description that I put in your packet with the changes in red, which are really only 3 things. The name, the response time for our mobile crisis is 30 minutes, which is just a rule. And then the associate's degree level. Carlson Detman will review that, and then we anticipate, based on how they scaled the other ones, that they will make that a grade 10, could be 11, could be 9, could be less, but we have to submit that, to get it on the scale so then we can use that as a part of our recruitment.
So you think there is a possibility that they will agree?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I really believe that they will utilize it just like every other job that they reviewed. If they're gonna say, hey, this is a case manager throughout the region, and as a result, we think that that's grade level. We're confident with that.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote on it now. Awesome. 19 yes, passed by majority.
Thank you very much. Probably the most nervous time of the whole night is waiting for the votes to show. So, keep smiling. Thanks for coming to work tonight. Appreciate all the efforts and the work that you're doing for our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Louise. Entertain the motion authorizing not to exceed $6 million general obligation promissory notes for capital projects. Motion by Mr. Redway, second by Mr. Rusk.
Okay, so just to recap, what this resolution is proposing is, the intent to borrow not more than $6 million for capital projects, and specifically this resolution highlights highway projects and capital improvement plan projects. So what this bond money would be used for is the radio project that, was passed tonight for a not to exceed amount of $430,938. And then back in January of '23, this body approved $1,789,270 for highway projects. So that is a total earmarked amount of $220,208. So that leaves, approximately $1.78-ish million. Highway, according to what they submitted to the capital improvement plan for 2025, is requesting $1.2-ish million for road construction projects and a few capital, equipment purchases in 2025. So that would leave about $500,000 unallocated of this $6 million, and that would be up to the board's discretion on which, capital projects to fund out of the $6 million.
Any questions? If not, we can vote on it now. Yes, passed by 3/4 vote membership.
Do you have a petition on it?
You need a 3/4.
I know that's not. 18, entertain a motion for providing for sale of approximately $6 million general obligation promissory note. Motion by Mr. Miller, second by Mr. Whitewick. Ashley.
Okay, so this resolution is pretty self-explanatory. It kind of walks us through what the next steps are going to be in issuing this debt. So step one is the issuing the debt in the not to exceed, which is the $6 million. Step two is to authorize the officers of the county to take the necessary steps to negotiate the sale. Again, we worked through Baird. Justin has been here the last couple of months presenting, and Quarles and Brady. The officers of the county are the county clerk, the county treasurer, the county finance director, and the county administrative coordinator. Step three, the county clerk will cause an official statement. So Connie has to fill out some paperwork that is notarized, and then the fourth step would be the board declaring its intent to actually go ahead and issue that debt and reimbursing ourselves an amount not to exceed that $6 million. I guess one other thing I wanted to point out, in December of 2022, this board passed a reimbursement resolution. So we have been spending money out of our capital fund, and this borrowing now will allow us to replenish our capital fund.
Yeah, do you normally put, fiscal impact on these or no?
Yeah, so $6 million.
Well, in the little box here, I'm just asking because I don't know.
Oh,
Fiscal impact.
okay, yeah, usually we run them through, but the seat.
It's bad.
Sorry.
I know it's $6 million anyway.
Pocket change.
That's a lot of zeros.
Close one eye.
Okay, I'm good.
Any other questions? If not, vote on it now. Passed by majority vote, full membership. 18 yes. Okay, has everybody read the appointments on the back? Board adjustments, HHS service, and health and food services. Anybody have a question up, trying to just appoint them all? Instead of running through them all at the same? Right.
For the new, one of the new guys
guys in the room, could you explain what the Board of Adjustment is?
Sure.
No, Patty will.
I can. So, the Board of Adjustment is a quasi judicial branch of the county. So, if somebody goes through the zoning procedure and makes an application for a variance, condition of use, things like that, the county zoning committee would make that decision. If they can then appeal that to the Board of Adjustments, which acts as a quasi judicial branch, and then if they don't like the outcome of the Board of Adjustment, then they can appeal that to Register Shigari in front of the circuit court. So,
A bit of a correction, I think. The Board of Adjustment has the power to give a variance. The zoning committee never gets involved with zoning, with variances. We will get involved with conditional use permits or the county zoning administrator might issue or deny issuance of a permit. Those can be appealed to the Board of Adjustment. The Board of Adjustment alone takes up the variances. Zoning committee does not get involved.
okay. But the zoning committee would then either argue for or against the variance against the landowner.
That's what I was
I didn't know.
So everybody's had a chance to read who they are and any objections to appointing them. Motion by Mr. Willingham and second by Mr. Russell. Mary Wegweg, you have a question?
Yes, can you explain number 3, why do we have anything to do with Clark County?
That's a good one too. So, a dozen years ago, 10 years ago, we created a county consortium with a bunch of counties with the Clark County healthcare system, okay? The Clark County Health System, we are now a member of this consortium. More or less what happens is you can't pay additional services to supplement what Medicaid pays for people in a nursing home, okay? Clark County has advanced needs for people of Rusk County that they lose money. As a result, we created this consortium that supplements Medicaid to pay for people with advanced care there, that but for that being placed at Clark County would be placed at Trempealeau, at worst case scenario, Winnebago, Mendota, a few other places. It gives us more options, but every time we place somebody there, we have to pay an additional fee to do so. And so every member on that board is appointed by a member county.
Thank you.
Our county wouldn't take them at a loss.
Correct.
So then we'd be stuck without them.
Correct.
Any other questions? If not, we can vote on it. Yes, passed by majority vote. Announcements. We got a card for Ken Peterson, former board member that passed. Everybody can sign it, please, so we can send it to him and his family. Any other announcements?
I think you've seen the ads for Ace Hardware is celebrating their 100th anniversary. This Friday, half the till proceeds will go to the animal shelter. So save up all your stuff that you need to buy at Ace Hardware, go there on Friday, purchase it, and that will help fund the animal shelter. Thank you.
I'm just asking a question. I saw an email, something about a tour of the joint buildings coming up. Does anybody remember when that was? I lost my.
That's on Thursday, at the end of the joint management meeting. It'll technically be part of the meeting, but we're going to tour, probably not all of them, and some of them. The discussion was we're gonna tour buildings along Gilliard.
I'd like to see them again.
This Thursday.
This Thursday, yeah, meeting starts at 3, so.
Any other announcements? If not,
Exactly.
Say aye.